Cole, this morning I had a bottle of milk delivery at my front door because I live in 1950s suburbia, and printed right on the back in giant bold letters, missing Aaron Judge.
Oh,
last seen in the regular season. Where the hell is Aaron Judge? Who has climbed into his body and not been able to touch the ball with the bat? $40 million a year. They're paying Aaron Judge, and they're getting next to nothing from him in the postseason. And they're getting nothing from him in the World Series.
Was it 2% milk?
Yeah.
Are you a whole milk guy or 2%? Oh, skim.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, when the lights go on and he's on the biggest stage, Aaron Judge goes from Godzilla to the Geico Gecko.
Oh,
Like what happens with a dude who's 6'7", who plays like he's 5'2" in the biggest situations? That's why they pay you the $40 million, Aaron, and you're just gone. You're just not there. You're swinging at balls you shouldn't be swinging at. You got not even warning track power when he finally put the ball in the bat last night, Cole. And it's just pathetic.
yeah.
It's just pathetic how a guy like that can play so good all regular season, and in the key moment when the team really needs you to just be yourself, he disappears.
No, it's pretty pathetic. I'm not going to push back much. However, I will say, Diesel, to your point, you're right. He's Aaron Judge. He's the highest paid. He should be showing up. However, it's so interesting when you look at this team in the postseason, especially in the World Series. It's not like he's the only one that's MIA. I mean, they're leadoff guys. They're number one, number two, number three, Diesel. Torres, Soto, and Judge last night, 0 for 3, 0 for 3, 0 for 3. As a team, they combined for 5 hits. Now, you say, well, the Dodgers only had 5 hits last night too, but guess what? When Freddie Freeman decides to homer every game, that helps, right? He's on a tear. You texted me about him last night. He's playing phenomenal. To your point, Aaron Judge is supposed to be like the catalyst. He's supposed to be the guy that picks everyone else up. But what do we know about baseball? We know that hitting is contagious. And Diesel, we also know that on the flip side of that coin, when you're not hitting the baseball, that's also contagious. And that's what you're seeing right now with this lineup.
You know, when I was a kid playing, middle school and junior varsity high school baseball, there was a superstition, Cole, that when you were on a road trip, you were on always like those yellow school buses, because we didn't have like the white activity buses that could go 65 miles an hour instead of the yellow school buses that can only do 45 miles an hour.
I was on the short bus, so this.
Some might say we're still on the short bus. Now, we used to have a superstition that when you drove past a graveyard, you're supposed to pick your feet up and you're supposed to cross your fingers, because if you don't do that, you're never going to get another hit. Did Aaron Judge forget to do that? Did the entire Yankees lineup forget to do that? Did they drive right past the cemetery with their feet on the floor of the bus? Because they've all forgotten how to hit. And I can't speak for the rest of the team, Cole, but sadly, this is kind of par for the course for Aaron Judge once he gets into postseason play.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, he's been in the postseason now 7 times, and 4 of those 7 times, this year included, he's had lower than a 200 batting average in the postseason. That's absurd
for
a guy that makes $40 million a year. Now, I know it's New York and they're willing to overpay. And I get that during the regular season, he's an electric hitter who will tattoo the baseball. But I mean, come on, dude. We're not paying you to get us to the playoffs. We're paying for you to come alive.
And I'll tell you what else is bad, Diesel. We talked about this at the trade deadline. Jazz Chisholm Jr., who was a guy who got moved before the deadline. A lot of people wanted him in Atlanta, right? And guess what? He comes into the situation in New York, has a good season. But, again, I'm not disagreeing with you, but you take a guy like Jazz Chisholm Jr. last night, he's also supposed to be, he's batting right after cleanup, so he's fifth in the order. He's supposed to be producing 0 for 4 last night. He's batting 170 right now. And then Aaron Judge, you mentioned 140, right? Stanton's batting 298 in the top of the lineup. Soto's just over 326 or just over 320. But there's so much inconsistency. You might be able to win games throughout the course of the regular season with this kind of inconsistency. However, when you're going up against the absolute best team right now in the Dodgers, who are just on a mission, and Freddie Freeman's playing out of his mind, Diesel, best of luck to you. I thought last night the Yankees would win. I almost placed a wager for the Yankees to win. I thought that with their backs up against the wall, first game at home, they would be able to elevate themselves and get the win. But Freddie Freeman, man, right now, he's just on another level.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of credit goes out to Walker Buehler, pitcher for the Dodgers, who went 5 innings last night, gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, and 5 Ks. Phenomenal pitching from the LA Dodgers, and they've had good pitching the entire series.
Yeah.
The Yankees have absolutely not. Freddie Freeman, they're not throwing to Freddie Freeman. They're not putting him right down the pipe for him. And if they are, they're missing. So, I mean, Freddie gets a lot of credit for what he's done in this World Series. 3 homers, one of them being a Game 1 grand slam walk-off home run. And it's just absurd what he's done in this series, Cole. And I can't see anybody else at all. No one else has stepped up the way that Freddie Freeman has. He's a shoo-in in my book now to be the World Series MVP.
Yeah, he's a shoo-in. And you texted me that last night. He is. This series is really interesting because we talked about it before it started. We talked about it on Friday. These are 2 good teams. It's one of the most even series we've seen. But again, it kind of goes back to if you have those guys who are just abnormal, who do step up in situations where you're not expecting them to, like Freddie Freeman's doing. He only had 1 hit last night, but guess what?
It was a
home run, scored 2 runs, and guess that was a big lead. The Dodgers took a 2-0 lead and then went up 4-0. Then the Yankees scored 2 more to make it 4-2. I really hope and pray, Diesel, that this series isn't over tonight. I'm going to bet figuratively on the Yankees again tonight. And by the way, we're going to talk to Michael Duarte of NBCLA, good friend of the show. We had him on a few weeks ago when he was in the Mets dugout. He'll join us today at 5:20 to talk about this World Series where the Dodgers have absolutely demoed the Yankees in 3 games. However, you mentioned it before we went on the air, I'm still going to go with the Yankees tonight, despite them being down 3-0, and I know the Dodgers might look at this as a bullpen game. I think at some point the Yankees have got to get one.
Yeah, there's never been a team that has come back from down 3-0 in the World Series. I don't have any faith anymore at all that the New York Yankees can do that. The only thing that I can think of, Cole, here is it's the last night of the world's last game in New York, so they may want to get this thing back to LA. Or am I mistaken there? Is it a 2-3-2 format?
It is in it's in New York tonight.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
The next game, let's see. If they needed game 3 tomorrow would be Diesel in New York.
Well. Okay, excuse me. So apologies there for getting that wrong. When they jerk around with these when these formats every single year, you forget how they do things, right? In the NBA, they go back and forth for the series. Baseball is a 2-3-2. So, the fact that they are running the entire bullpen out there, that might be the only thing that saves New York. I can't think that a team that's won this many games over the course of a season, Cole, 94 games, gets swept in the World Series. And that, as we've talked about for the last couple of days, would be absolutely ugly and horrible for Major League Baseball. They need this series to stretch. They need to continue on with the great TV ratings that they've enjoyed up to this point in the postseason.
Starting for the Yankees tonight is Gill. And Gill, let's see here. He had Lewis Gill. He is only other postseason appearance of 2024 was to start in the ALCS against Cleveland.
He's a rookie, right?
I believe so. Let's see if it says it on here.
I believe he's a rookie.
He's from the Dominican Republic. He might be. Only other postseason appearance Diesel was in the ALCS against Cleveland. Lasted 4 innings, gave up 3 earned runs on 3 hits while striking out 3. He's a good pitcher, but again, what's crazy about tonight is even with the Dodgers going with a bullpen game and Lewis Gill on the mound for the Yankees, you don't have this tremendous amount of confidence betting on the Yankees tonight. That's what's scary. No. And they're supposed to be this was supposed to be the most even series ever, right? We talked about it on Friday, and you mentioned it. Aaron Judge, he's 1 of 12 in the World Series and 1 for his last 16 Diesel in the playoffs, which is his last 4 games. When you look at what Aaron Judge has done in the World Series, it's been next to nothing. Shohei's 1 of 11 in the World Series with 1 RBI.
But Shohei's got an excuse.
He has an
especially
excuse.
After the Game 2 injury. He's got an excuse. Aaron Judge doesn't have an excuse.
No,
He's not even putting the ball in play.
Mm.
That's how ugly this postseason has been for Aaron Judge. And by the way, I was wrong. Gill is not a rookie. However, he's only played prior to this season, Cole. He'd only ever played in 7 games. 6 games in 2021. 1 game in 2022, nothing last year. And this is his first ever trip to the postseason. So he is effectively a postseason rookie. Never played in the postseason before.
It'll be interesting. I really think, again, if you asked me right now, if I had to put money on it, I would say the Yankees do win by a run, maybe 2. Like, my whole thing goes back to you have to have a little bit of pride. You have to have a little bit of pride back against the wall. It's a tall order. They're not digging out of the 3-0 hole. We know that. But if you can somehow keep Freddie Freeman down and you can somehow keep Freddie Freeman from homering when runners are on base, you've got a shot because of the way we mentioned Shohei's playing with an injury. We know that. But, if you made me, if you put a gun to my head right now, I'd probably bet the Yankees. But then again, just like last night, if you asked me if it surprised me if the Dodgers won, I'd say no. And again, I think the Dodgers are the better team. What's so fascinating is they've been so depleted with injuries. This down the stretch of this season, yet despite the injuries, they're continuing to roll, and they're clearly the best team. And I know Dodgers fans out there who have had the highest payroll in baseball for a very long time have got to be excited because the 2020 World Series, as I said on Friday, Diesel, it did have an asterisk beside it because of COVID, because of how the playoffs were seeded and other things like that. But this is a true dominating season, one Dodger fans can actually be proud of.
It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Ricky Mullinax on the stream says, hope the Yankees lose. Go Sox. Really, Ricky? Like I understand you're a Sox fan, but don't you want more baseball? Do you want baseball to be done, or would you rather just rub it in? I get it. It's a rivalry that's different than any other in sports, but don't you want just a little more baseball? Like you know they're not going to come back from down 3-0.
Yeah.
You know they're going to lose the series. Wouldn't it hurt just a little bit more for the Dodgers to essentially do what all the villains do in bad movies like Bond movies? They have the spy, they have the guy down. You can just end it right here and there. Movie's over at like the 25-minute mark. But no, they play around with him. They toy around with him and let it go the distance. And it's not going to happen. Like James Bond is not going to come back and defeat Goldfinger in this. Okay. Like that's not going to happen for the New York Yankees, but wouldn't you want to see them stretch it out just a little bit more? Like make them think they have a little hope and then just pull the rug right out from under their feet. He says, no, a sweep is lovely.
Yeah.
A sweep is lovely.
I was going to say, if you're a rival,
I mean, it does negate the entirety of a great season, right?
It does.
I mean, at that point, you got Red Sox fans who are going to be in your ear hole the rest of your life.
And it goes back to the question of, if you're a fan of the Yankees, would you rather go to the World Series and get swept? or not make it all together? Is it more embarrassing to get swept in the World Series compared to losing in the second round?
Especially when you're 1-2 in payroll, when the other team is so injured, when their star can't do 50% of what he's a star for.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ugly look. It's an ugly look for the New York Yankees if they go down, Cole. And it's disappointing as a general baseball fan to say, all right, we're just gonna end this season with a whimper.
Yeah.
For the New York Yankees?
That's a good question, though. And I know we have a few Yankee fans out there, like Tiger Pal Rachel. There's a lot of Yankee fans in the upstate. Let us know, 71307, keyword fan. Would you rather make it and say you made it and get swept, or just avoid the embarrassment altogether and not even have to go there?
Texter says, as a Mets fan, go Dodgers, hate the Yankees. You must be an SEC fan, too, because once your team is eliminated, you root for the other SEC teams because at least a team in your conference won the thing. And I guess baseball is a little different. It doesn't make it any harder for you if another team in your conference wins or in your division in baseball wins.
No, it's interesting. And Texter, look, I mean, I think I really do, Diesel. I think 98% of baseball fans hate the Yankees. I really do. Nobody likes the Yankees. It's like the Cowboys. I
mean, they made them the bad guys in the Major League movie.
Yeah, everybody hates them. It's the same thing. Texter from the 978 says, why did Baltimore trade for Deontay Johnson? They run the ball 90% of the time, and if he throws it, Lamar only looks to Flowers, which used to be Andrews. Texter, we will get to that later in the program. Obviously, we'll have it on our daily wires, but I believe in the 5 o'clock hour, we will dive into that because it's going to be a fun discussion. Also, at 5:20, reminder, we're going to go to New York, where we're going to be joined by Michael Duarte of NBCLA. He will join us boots on the ground to give us his opinion on what's going to happen tonight in Game 4 of the World Series. We also have a welfare check coming up today, and we'll talk to our high school player of the week later in the 6 o'clock hour. But it's really fascinating. It really is. I don't know how Braves fans, and maybe that's the last question that I'd like to ask Diesel before we run to a break. I don't know how Braves fans are pulling for this World Series to go or finish, obviously with the Dodgers up 3-0. I can tell you, as a Brave fan here, I don't care who wins. I could really care less. No interest, no vested interest in either the Yankees or the Dodgers. Just wish it was Atlanta there.
Yeah, I mean, I want it to be a better series, right? I want it to give me a reason to watch.
Well, that's true.
World Series baseball is supposed to be can't-miss baseball. It's supposed to be two teams throwing body blows at each other like the Rocky movies, right? I want to see that. I don't want to see these sad games from the New York Yankees. I mean, when it's like this, Cole, you can turn it off by the 5th. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. You turn it off.
The star isn't showing up. And the stars, I'll make it plural, even with Ohtani's injury. And I know you can't control that. That's an uncontrollable. So you can't really put that blame on him. But
you got a roster full of stars, and they're not showing up either.
No, they're not. But everybody wants to see, like, Aaron Judge, Ohtani go at it and really dictate the course of the series. And that hasn't happened. And I think that's the biggest surprise. And I'll be very interested to see, and we'll ask Michael Duarte. We'll see some ratings come out over the next few days, I'm sure, Diesel, but I'll be very intrigued on how this 3-0, potentially 4-0 sweep, if it were to be swept tonight, if the Dodgers go up 4-0 tonight and end the series, I will be very interested to see how that affected the ratings, because Game 1, the ratings were probably here, right? Freddie Freeman walk-off, grand slam. It was a Yankees lead. But after that walk-off grand slam, Diesel, it never seemed like the Yankees were back in.
Broke their spirit.
It did. It broke it in Game 1. And I'm sure the ratings for Game 1 were fantastic. I'll be interested to see it when they come out. They may already be out. I'll look for them during the break. But you're right. It did break their spirit. And since then, they really haven't been competitive. It's really interesting, though. Game 4 tonight in New York. Again, we'll talk to Michael Duarte of NBCLA at 5:20 to get his insight on this Game 4. Coming up next, though, Diesel, we have a altercation between an NFL player and a media member. You know how last week you and I talked about what's the word I'm looking for here? The tension in the Big D, the tension in Dallas with Jerry, getting off on a reporter, on a radio host asking a question. And now tempers are flaring after the game between a pro player for the Cowboys and a reporter who was in the wrong. We'll figure it out next. this conversation before, Diesel, about podcast and the way the new world has gone with media, social media. Podcasts are just everywhere. Everybody has a podcast. So I have two questions for you, as well as the Tolos. There was an altercation after a game, which you don't really see this much in the NFL, but a pretty heated altercation between Trayvon Diggs and Mike Leslie, who's a media member in Dallas after another Cowboys loss to the 49ers Sunday, Diesel. But I want to find out who was in the wrong, but I also want to ask the question, because I believe very strongly that this is a distraction. Your thoughts, as well as our thoughts of our listeners. Is it a distraction in your mind for a player on a team who's a star to host a podcast during the season, have other players on from his team as well as other teams? Because to me, it seems like a pretty hefty distraction. Here's the altercation that I'm referencing that happened between Trayvon Diggs and Mike Leslie over the weekend after the game in San Francisco.
From that, out of that whole play, that's what you took from that. You don't know football. You can't do nothing that I do. You can't go out there and do nothing. Stay in your lane, buddy. Stop playing me, bro.
Just asking a question, Trayvon. I mean, I'm happy to have you answer the question.
Out of that whole play, that's what you took from that. That's what you got from that whole play.
So I have to cut it off there because there's a word that will get us, will make me hit the dump button.
So
that's pretty bold there.
I hadn't heard the audio from this altercation. I was aware that it happened, but I hadn't heard it. And my initial thought, and this was just thinking in general terms, I understand why players want to have a podcast because they can then voice their opinions, their thoughts on how a game went, completely unfiltered, and everything they have to say about it, or everything that they're willing to say about it in their podcast, is out there for everybody to hear.
Yeah.
And, oftentimes media members are looking for the gotcha phrase that's going to make for a great headline, and they can get some clicks and they can get some downloads. And I'm not begrudging any media member for phrasing and choosing to frame something that happens or something that someone says in a particular way to get clicks and downloads. You know why? Because we're all in the clicks and downloads business.
Yeah.
It's bad when you intentionally misrepresent something that someone says. It's bad when you make it appear like it's a quote.
Yep.
Like you're quoting what somebody says versus when you're paraphrasing what somebody had to say or trying to capture the spirit of what someone had to say. So I understand why players want to do it, because they get to be unfiltered.
Mm-hmm. So I'm with you. I completely agree. I have no pushback to anything to that point. My only issue, again, is I'm going to play the altercation one more time, 16 seconds, and then I'll play the response that Trayvon gave on Micah Parsons' podcast, Diesel. So remember, Micah Parsons, the linebacker for the Cowboys, isn't even playing right now, right? He's hurt. He's not playing. However, his podcast must go on. So Micah has Trayvon on the podcast. But one more time, here's the altercation. I thought Trayvon crossed the line.
Out of that whole play, that's what you took from that. You don't know football. You can't do nothing that I do. You can't go out there and do nothing.
So first of all, like that's what you took from that. You can't do anything I do. Like, you could tell it struck a nerve. Whatever Mike Leslie said struck a nerve. You can't do it. Well, no crap, Trayvon. That's why he's a reporter, and that's why you're being paid millions. Like, let's state the obvious some more there.
Well, hey, Cole, look at what's going around in play-by-play. Look what's going around in color commentary. Look what's going around on the guests that they choose to put on sports punditry TV shows. There's an increasingly high number of former players because they played the game. They know how it goes. They've been in locker rooms.
Yeah.
They understand the struggles that players go through in a different way than reporters ever could, right? Because reporters sit in an office. They sit at a desk and they write. Players live in the gym. They live in the locker room. They live on the field. And it's just something that reporters can't do. And we've seen, Cole, a tremendous number of former players find success and be quite good at being on television and at being on the microphone. So this whole notion of you can't do what I can do, but essentially I can do what you can do, which is get out there in front of the people and talk to them on my podcast. I think he's technically correct here.
Well,
if not being a little bit of a jerk.
So
a lot of bit of a jerk.
I'm with you there. However, what I would say is before I play the reaction on Micah's podcast, Diesel, a lot of former players do have the ability to go and do what the Mike Greenbergs of the world are doing, right? A lot of those players, like the Shaquille O'Neals, like the, you name it, whoever you want to name on NBA TNT, the Kenny and the Chuck, a lot of those players, to your point, do have the ability to go and create content and be good on television, but not all of them do. Not every single athlete, just because, again, my biggest point is here, just because you played the game, and I've heard it myself too, over the course of broadcasting high school football and college games on ESPN Plus and stuff over the years, did you play the game in college? No, I didn't play. But guess what? Just because you played the game doesn't mean you can do my job better than I can. Sometimes you can. I would argue that some former players are better, but you cannot argue the fact that Mike Greenberg or Stephen A. Smith, who didn't play the game at a high level, don't know how to do their job because they didn't play the game. Those two at ESPN are two of the best in the business. So here's Trayvon's response on the Micah Parsons podcast the next day.
After the game, I just happened to see it, and I looked, I clicked on it, I seen who it was. I was like, oh, he right here. I just saw you. So I went up to him, and I just spoke how I felt. I felt like there was a lot of emotions, just losing, coming out the game. We fresh off the loss. I'm a competitor, so, I wanted to win. So, just a lot of emotions, and, I just kind of let my, emotions get the best of me. But, at the end of the day, it still doesn't make it right for anybody just to be saying anything or just trying to throw dirt on your name or make you, seem like you're doing bad or a bad job, because, I feel like I played my hardest game yesterday. I felt like, I did everything I could. I felt like, I was tackling, setting the edges, just doing everything to help my team win. And for him to just try to throw that on my name, it just didn't sit right with me because you were like completely wrong.
So that's Trayvon's response on Micah's podcast. So we're discussing two things here. We're discussing the altercation, but at the same time, the Cowboys suck. And the next day, what's in the headlines? Not, oh, they had a really good practice, they're getting better. Oh, the coach made adjustments. It's, Micah's podcast had Trayvon Diggs on, Diesel, in the midst of a 3-4, 3-5 record, whatever they are, losing record for the Cowboys. I just think there's so many bad looks. The Cowboys, as bad as they are on the field, right now they're doing a heck of a job of looking just as bad off the field.
Texer says, so Diggs felt like he was used for clickbait, and then he gave the reporter his ultimate clickbait. Brilliant job by Stephon Diggs. Look,
It's funny.
I mean, look, people who consume sports content don't always necessarily want the highly polished media professional who got their degree from Harvard or where. They don't want that.
Yeah.
They don't care about that. They don't care about the journalistic integrity of the person who writes it. They don't care that that person went to broadcasting school. Those old school boundaries of saying the person who's speaking shouldn't be speaking because they don't have the background in journalism is gone.
It is. It's new media.
Those barriers are gone. And I'm telling you, so many fans, and I'm talking about really the social media side of fandom and content consumption, they'd much rather just cut out the middleman. I mean, they genuinely don't care that a podcast or a 60-second drop or whatever, they don't care that it's not 60 seconds. They don't care that it's not polished. They don't care that there's bad vernacular. They don't care that they use the wrong words. They don't care that the person is being unprofessional in a media sense. They just like having information directly from the person who is involved in the play.
That's right.
They would rather have Stephon Diggs make excuses for his poor play than listen to guys like this reporter break down why it was a bad play.
I guess, Diesel, my final thoughts are, look, if I'm a head coach of a team and this is what I'm having to deal with
Yeah.
Okay, like I know Mike McCarthy gets a lot of blame, and I know a lot of people get blame in Dallas, and most of it's deserved. However, I cannot imagine Diesel being the head coach of the Cowboys, the most scrutinized head coaching position in all the sports, having a quack owner who won't let me do my job, who doesn't do his job in the offseason to prepare me to do my job during the season. And then I've got the stars of the team hosting podcast during the season, bringing on my other team members who just chewed out a reporter, who just cussed out a reporter, and I couldn't play the whole audio because there were a couple explicitives there. But, like, for all the crap talk that McCarthy gets and for all the hate that Mike McCarthy gets, I cannot imagine having to deal with all of the different spinning attributes and spinning the carousel of what is the current Dallas Cowboys. It'd be a massive headache.
There's a 2-word phrase, Cole, that a lot of coaches use. I've heard almost every coach in every level of every sport use 2 words when he talks about how much cooperation he gets from his team. It's called buy-in. They all talk about buy-in. And this is a clear problem with buy-in from the Dallas Cowboys locker room, from the personnel. Look, bad teams lose focus, and they're losing games because they've lost focus and they're focusing on other things. I'm gonna do my best Nick Saban. All right. They're losing focus. All right, because you're focusing on the wrong things. All right.
I like it.
You're worried about, hey, when can I say my piece on my podcast to cover my ass and make me look like I didn't do anything wrong on the play where I got toasted for 80 yards.
Yeah.
All right. And then on the other side of that, Cole, the good teams, they keep all that stuff internal.
Well,
you don't see the best teams in sports allowing things like this to get out. And those who do, those really good teams and that have players that do their podcasts and do other things, they keep it buttoned up in a way that it doesn't take away from the team.
And to your point, it's very, very difficult, Diesel, to keep anything buttoned up or quiet in Dallas.
Sure.
In Dallas, you can forget it. 2 texts real quick before we run to a break. Texter says, the reporter may not be able to play football like Diggs, but at least he can speak and write coherently. ... We all have our talents, I guess. Taking some shots there is the texter. Jeff R. chimes in and says, Real Housewife of the Cowgirls. And look, like, I'm at the point now as a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan who's been a Cowboy fan my entire life. All the hate, all the jokes, all of the fun that's being poked at Dallas now, it's 100% deserved now. I mean, they are nothing more. I've said it 100 times. They're nothing more right now than just a freaking reality TV show. And this is a prime example.
Look, these guys, Cole, are professionals. They spend 8 to 10 hours a day inside the facility thinking football, whether it's on the practice field, whether it's in the treatment room, the weight room, whatever. They're thinking football 8 hours a day. They're sleeping 8 hours a day. That gives them 8 more hours a day to do whatever it is they want to do in their lives.
Yeah.
And some of them choose to spend that time getting distracted from being a better football player. You can't make them spend the extra 8 hours sitting at home on their couch like little choir boys.
True.
So that's why I say the best teams have buy-in, and those guys keep everything internal. And they keep it focused, and they don't talk to the media, and they don't let their emotions get the hold of them. The bad teams lose their focus.
Jerry's definition of buy-in is a little different. It's like literal buy-in.
Cole, when we come back, wild story out of the Mountain West and how a team may make the NCAA tournament by missing half of their schedule. That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. Cole, have you ever heard of a Division I athletic director emailing their counterpart at another school asking for restitution in the amount of $1,250 in lost concessions and parking revenue?
No, not lately. Not like in the last few days. I haven't. Maybe a long time ago. No,
in a Division I program, Cole, $1,250 is pennies in a couch cushion.
1,200. We're talking about
$1,250. It's pennies in a couch cushion. They could literally break that off for anything. Yeah, right. Because we get paid so much money, Cole. But no, that is what San Jose State is requesting of Boise State, requesting that they pay them $1,250 because Boise State refused to play San Jose State in a women's volleyball match, stemming from an as yet unconfirmed report that there is a transgender player on the Spartans volleyball team. So this all went down over the past couple of weeks, Cole. And the emails come across. I'm going to read you some of these emails. They come across as so petty and catty and childish. So this is what the San Jose State AD Jeff Kanya emailed to his counterpart, Jeremiah Dickey at Boise State. He said, from a practical matter, your institution's arbitrary decision not to play an otherwise eligible team has resulted in harm to San Jose State's financial and institutional brand. I would ask to be made whole at the very least.
By $1,250.
By the tune of $1,250, Cole. But no, this is not a brand new issue, okay? This is an issue that 4 other schools in the Mountain West have also refused to play San Jose State in volleyball. And look, this is a matter that is at the forefront of the election that we've got coming up here in a couple of days. You know, one side says, hey, we're all for inclusivity. The other side says, hey, we're here to protect your daughters in the situations where boys want to play women's sports or girls' sports. So this is a big time national issue, Cole, and it's being fought in conference settings. It's being fought in local settings all over the country, Cole, and it's just wild how pervasive this thing has gotten. With the 4 forfeitures, Cole, the Spartans are 7-3, could qualify for the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament. And then you've got to deal with this now on a potentially national scale because whoever ends up in the NCAA women's volleyball tournament could also choose to forfeit games and say, you know what, we're not going to be involved in something like this.
There's a lot of different angles here that are really happening in this story. Like it's one story, but there's a lot going on, including the $1,250 that they want from the hot dogs and nachos and parking, right? Because evidently they have some pretty good concessions that are going to sell, a foot-long hot dog.
I saw a woman coming up the stairs Saturday at that concert for Carolina. She had a plate of nachos, that standard square, like really thin nacho tray. As soon as she sat down, Cole, she wasn't gripping on the cheese corner because that's the heavy corner, right? And it just started dripping and went all down her pants. And
did she lick it up?
No, ew. No, Cole.
It's still good. You gotta lick it's cheese. There's nothing better than nacho. Sorry, didn't mean to get out of tangent.
It's bad nacho cheese.
It's still good.
Bad. It just clicked in my mind. I was like, oh wait, that happened at concert for Carolinas. Cole, but look, the NCAA is not following even their own rules with the enforcement of transgender athletes in college athletics. The rules state, not state, but the rules essentially wrap around the idea of testing protocols and testosterone in an athlete's system. But Cole, there have been Title IX lawsuits that have stricken that down. And the NCAA is not even upholding that. They're allowing transgender athletes to participate in women's sports, regardless of whether they've gone through protocols or testosterone level testing.
Which again, it's you said it at the very beginning of the segment. It's not just an NCAA issue, it's a national issue. And what's fascinating about this story is you want, again, I'm not speaking for everyone here, but you want your daughters or whoever it is that's playing to be protected. But when these amounts of money and continued cases to follow, when this continues to happen, in my mind, it's only going to get worse.
And at the moment, Cole, schools are forfeiting games when they don't want to play against a team with a transgendered athlete.
I say good for them.
Which also, Cole, also harms the female athlete at those schools because they then can't go out on the court or the field and participate and compete. And it potentially hurts their ability to continue on in postseason play. So just so much involved.
It really is. Speaking of so much involved, there's a lot involved in making an upset pick and getting it correct. We can't tell you how to do that because we suck at it, but we're going to try again this week. We're going to do a little upset pick study session as we always do on Tuesday. It was a bad week for the Tolos, but we're going to bounce back and get in the weight room in the library next. Well, there's nothing better, Diesel, than a new week. A breath of fresh air.
A chance to not suck again.
A chance just to kind of breathe. Feel like a weight's been lifted off your shoulder. You know how like every day is a new day, every month's a new month, every year's a new year. You get a chance to have just a sense of newness, right? A little bit of freedom.
It's like the lead up to the preseason for Cowboys fans.
Yeah, exactly. That's bad.
Hope
dark,
springs eternal.
It doesn't last long, especially this season. However, that's what we're offering today, as it was a mighty, mighty tough week for the Tolos out there. What is a Tolo? I had somebody on Saturday night at a gathering ask me what a Tolo was. Turn on, leave on. That's what you are, the listeners. We ask you to turn it on and leave it on. So a lot of Tolos struggled in the Upset Picks Challenge. And Diesel, by struggle, I mean 2 of what? 127, 8, 9, 10, something like, not 120-10, that's not a number, but 128. How many ever we had last week? 2 Tolos hit. And that is the all-time lowest. However, congratulations to those 2 Tolos that did hit. It is time to breathe a breath of fresh air and have a sense of faith and renewal that we can all hit again this week as we do an Upset Picks study session and see who we like this week before this thing kicks off again tomorrow. Diesel, are you feeling better? You feeling uplifted, encouraged?
I have to be. I have no other choice.
The hesitation worried me, though. I was worried. I was worried. I was really worried for a minute. I thought you were going to say no, because we have a lot of Tolos who are discouraged.
The percentage, by the way, was 0.8%.
Of Tolos?
0.8% of Tolos who got in a pick last week.
That's right.
Got theirs correct.
That doesn't really, the only problem with that, it doesn't really give a lot of Tolos hope, but that doesn't happen often. Wesley says, can I remove myself from the Upset Pick Challenge,
No, you're
please?
here for life.
You can't take it anymore. We're sorry.
Ain't going nowhere.
No, you're not going anywhere. You have to suffer with us, Wesley. If we have to suffer, you have to suffer, because that's what we do as Tolos together. We suffer. It is the Upset Picks Challenge. We know that every single day we get new Tolos who have never listened to the show before. So tomorrow begins a new week of Upset Picks. You pick an outright underdog or an underdog to win the game outright. For example, if you liked Penn State to beat Ohio State on Saturday, you'd pick Penn State to beat Ohio State. You text it into the show tomorrow with your name, the game, and the amount of points. But it's our job on Tuesday, Diesel, to educate the Tolos. And again, I almost hit 2 weeks in a row last week. Duke let me down and let 11 other Tolos down as well.
They ripped it away from you at the last minute. This is going to be, Cole, like, you know, we've seen a lot of big spreads the last 2 weeks or so. With a lot of Tolos just saying, all right, screw it. I'm going all in. I'm going for that 20-pointer. I'm trying to hit it over the fence. We don't have a ton of those games.
Not a lot of big spreads?
No, I'm scrolling down the list, Cole. I'm seeing big spreads from San Diego State, Boise State. That's a 23.5 point game. Miami is a 21.5 point favorite as of right now over Duke. That's a big one. But after Duke refused to win the football game last week, do we think we're going to see a lot of Tolos pick that one? Army are 22.5 point favorites over Air Force. Michigan, Oregon State. That's a 2-touchdown game.
Yeah.
Florida. So we don't have a ton of the big ones, and the big ones that we have are far more implausible than the big ones that have hit already this season.
Okay. So texters, let us know what you think of the slate of games this weekend. Also, you can ask us about a certain game. Don't get mad though when you make a pick based on what we think and it doesn't hit, because we've struggled. Texter says, what do you think of the Oklahoma-Maine game? Texter, is that a serious text? I mean, you cannot be serious asking about Oklahoma and Maine. I would imagine, Diesel.
There's no spread on that game.
Oh, okay. I was going to say it'd be monstrous.
Yeah, we use ESPN.com for our spreads, and that may change. It may leading up to tomorrow at 3:00 when we lock the spreads in.
Yeah.
But as of right now, Texter, there is not a spread on the main Oklahoma game, so you're not going to be able to pick that one.
You're not going to pick it. DB says, I bet Vandy goes big this week with the picks. Madcraft asked, Michigan over Oregon? No, not for me.
Yeah.
Not for this guy.
This is another crazy one, and I had this one on my list called Vandy over Auburn. Auburn's favored by 7 at home. That's a 3-5 Auburn team who are 1-4 in the SEC against a 5-3 Vanderbilt who have some sort of magic horseshoe stuck up their butt somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody's got it. You just can't see it on TV because there's a lot of pads. But I don't see why Auburn are 7-point favorites against Vanderbilt. Explain this.
You leaning that way? Are you interested?
It's one that I'm interested in. That's for sure. I mean, Vandy feels like they're being disrespected for being Vandy, but this is not your grandpa's Vandy.
And it's in the dangerous confines of Auburn.
Right.
At Jordan Hare.
Jordan.
Jordan.
I can't even say it right.
God.
How do you spell Jordan Hare Stadium?
Jordan.
Is it spelled Jordan?
Yep.
It's Jordan.
Yeah.
You stupid. You know what's down in northeastern Alabama.
You could call him
it's
cousin.
Jordan.
Yeah. Okay.
It's Jordan. Like you don't know. Number one, you don't know what your mascot is. Number two, you can't even pronounce the name of your own damn stadium.
Madcraft says good information on the Michigan-Oregon game. Now I'll select that one. You can go ahead and select it, Madcraft, but I'm telling you right now, that one's not good. Michigan's not beating Oregon. Michigan is not beating Oregon. I said it slow
Yeah,
so we
that was
could
going
play
to
it
happen
back.
last week, and I went with the big hitter,
You
and
did.
I got stomped. Like
You
it
did.
was over. It was over like 2 drives into the first quarter.
I cannot wait. I have a few that I'm interested in. I want to hear more of yours, Diesel, but let's hear what Billy Horn, a Tolo of the show, has to say. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. The phone lines are open if you want to get in on the conversation. What's up, Billy?
How we doing, gentlemen?
Good,
Billy.
man.
3 games that I would like to hear your opinion on. You gave me one. I still think Vanderbilt is getting a little disrespected. They've been in every game but one all year. I mean, come on. They played toe-to-toe with Texas and only lost by 7. And you're telling me they're the underdog at Jordan Hare Stadium. That makes no sense. I want to know your thoughts on Texas Tech versus Iowa State. I like that game. And I also like Kentucky over Tennessee. Boys, what do you think?
Interesting, Billy, because I also looked at Texas Tech, Iowa State.
It's a big spread, by the way.
Texas Tech is consistently pretty good on offense. They put up a lot of points, but they are wildly inconsistent on defense. Some games they give up 35. One game they even give up 59 to Baylor. And then they followed that up with 2 games where they gave up only 22 points. So you never know what Texas Tech defense is going to show up. And Iowa State is not really out there running up the score on anybody. So I think there's a better than decent chance Texas Tech stays in this game.
Now, the next one you asked about, Billy, was Kentucky, Tennessee. Is that right?
That is correct, gentlemen.
Billy, Tennessee's favored 16.5. Look, Kentucky, could they keep the game close? I think they could. However, here's the question you have to ask yourself there, and the question I ask myself as well. Do you have enough faith in Kentucky on the road on a Saturday night to upset Tennessee? I don't. I don't know if you do or not, Billy.
I don't, but it's one of those games. Watching Tennessee over the last couple of weeks, it's been sloppy. It
has.
Early in the year, Tennessee looked really, really good. Here lately, not as well as before. And Kentucky just seems to play well against Tennessee the last 2 years.
Should be fun to watch. Thanks for the call, Billy. 844-FAN phone. That's the way you can get in touch with the show.
With that game, Cole and Billy, I hope you're still listening at the moment. Kentucky's on a 3-game losing streak where they can't score.
Yeah.
They can't score.
I just don't have faith
They've
in
lost
Kentucky, Diesel.
Auburn, at Florida, and Vanderbilt. The Vanderbilt and Auburn games were at home in Lexington. They've lost 3 in a row. Their only good win of the season was against Ole Miss. That great win for Kentucky.
Yeah.
But they still didn't score a lot of points in that game. They only put up 20 points there. They kept it close against a Georgia that played their worst football game in a long time. They got blown out by South Carolina. I mean, I'm thinking this spread should be bigger than it is.
Yeah, I'm not taking Kentucky.
The spread on this one was 16.5. Honestly, I think 16.5, especially with the game being at Tennessee, I think that spread could be higher.
Yeah. Let's see, Diesel. Did you give all of yours? All of your leans?
No, I also looked at Ole Miss at Arkansas.
Ooh.
Arkansas 7-point dogs in that game. Arkansas seems to be playing with a desire to save Sam Pittman's job. So I think Arkansas is a better football team than a lot of people give them credit for. They've been counted out and discounted all season long. They put up a ton of points against a bad Mississippi State. They've shown that they can go toe-to-toe and win a low-scoring, drag-out game against Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, there's clearly a reason why Arkansas are the underdogs here, but I do see them as having a legitimate chance here. It's not a great chance. What is the ESPN matchup predictor right now? They have a 26% chance to pull the upset. So
it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas could do it. They could do it. They could get another one of those shocking, low-scoring upsets.
Texter ask, Kennesaw State, Western Kentucky? ? Surely, Kennesaw State is not going to hit 2 weeks in a row. They've won one game, for crying out loud. Another texter asked, Florida, Georgia +14? ?
That Kennesaw State Western Kentucky game, Cole, is a 24-point spread.
It's a lot.
Western Kentucky 5-2. Look,
what's the odds of them doing it back-to-back weeks?
I mean, weren't we asking the same thing about Vanderbilt and they took Texas to the brink?
I don't know. I can't do it. I can't do it.
People are going to take it because we've entered silly season, right? And it's worth a lot of points.
Oh, I get that. Let's see. Any games before we get to the weekend, before we get to Saturday, any early games we have an interest on? Kennesaw State, Western Kentucky's Wednesday night. Jacksonville State, Liberty, really no interest there because it's only a 2-point spread. And what's that going to do for you? Not much. Thursday, Tulane and Charlotte is an interesting game. Charlotte's just been horrible this season, though, Diesel. They're 16.5-point dogs.
Sorry, Tolos, you can't take New Mexico State, Florida International.
Is that tonight?
Yeah, Louisiana Tech, Sam Houston. Honestly, if game 4 of the World Series gets dull, I might flip on one of these games.
Oh, I'll have these games on before I have the World Series. You know I love midweek random Tuesday football. I love it. I absolutely love it. And then Friday night, you have 3 games, Georgia State, UConn. Maybe some interest there as UConn's favored by 7.5. UCF, Florida Atlantic, nothing there, 3 points. However, if you want to get a little loco, if you want to get a little crazy, Diesel, at 8 o'clock on Friday in the Upset Picks Challenge, San Diego State's at Boise State. San Diego State, the record's not good, 3-4, but they're 2-0 in the Mountain West. Boise State's 23.5-point favorites. This one could put you pretty high in the standings. I'm not saying I'm going to take it, but I'd be lying to you, Diesel, if I told you I didn't take a peek at it.
So the last 5 games, San Diego State has beaten Wyoming and Hawaii. Wyoming is 1-7.
You didn't have to tell me that.
Hawaii is 3-5.
Don't tell me that.
So San Diego State can't beat a good football team. They got beat by Washington State this past week. Close football game, 3-point game. They got blown out by Cal.
So you're saying it's not going to happen?
Boise State is better than both of those teams. I don't think it's going to happen. Matchup predictor gives them a 5% chance to win this one.
Well, thanks for ruining that one. Mark Yellow Ducks on this YouTube stream says, Cole, I should take Kennesaw State because you talked me out of it last week and they won.
Hey, we're not here to tell you what to do. We can sometimes give you bad information. Or
we can.
Just something wild happens.
And
that nobody can predict.
You know, Ohio State, Penn State's an interesting game. I think it'll be a fantastic whiteout, Diesel. However, it's only a 3-point spread, so I wouldn't encourage anyone to go there. Duke, Miami, though. How about this? Like, Duke was absolutely pathetic last week. They were gifted 6 turnovers, and now they're a 21.
Willis going to play in this game?
Sadly.
Yeah, don't play. Don't pick this one.
Sadly. is your answer there. Did you mention Ole Miss? You did mention Ole Miss, Arkansas.
I did.
We talked about that one. I'm with you. I do find myself looking at that game, but again, 7 points. What does that really do for you?
Texter asks about Florida, Georgia. 14-point spread on that one. Florida minus 14 or Florida plus 14.
No, surely not.
Florida's
right?
a 4-3 football team. It's a rivalry game. Look, Kirby is not gonna get punked in a rivalry game to a bad Florida team.
I don't think so.
I mean, that would be honestly. There's probably a lot of Florida fans who would rather lose that game because they're tired and done with Billy Napier.
Yeah, they want to lose. They want to get their coach canned. They're tired of it. Texter, no, I don't see it.
Texter did come back and tell us that that he saw a 35.5-point spread on the Oklahoma-Maine game. Again, Texter, we use ESPN.com's betting odds.
You better contact ESPN.
Yeah, you better reach out to them, ask for a spread on that game real quick if that's the one you want to take, because as of right now, as of today, there is not a spread on that game.
And I have no interest. I know we briefly mentioned it earlier. Oregon, Michigan, I have no interest there. Even though it's at the Big House in Ann Arbor, I'm good. I'll pass on that 14.5-point spread. The Texas Tech Iowa State game, though, that you brought up, I do find myself a little bit interested there because of the point spread. It wouldn't be one that got you Diesel in the top 15 or top 20, of course, but it'd be a very, very big upset and a very nice win if you were to get that one in the Upset Picks Challenge. UL Monroe Marshall, I did look at that one. UL Monroe Diesel is at Marshall Saturday at 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
Marshall is favored by 10.5 at home. UL Monroe's a good team, though. They're 5-2, 3-1 in the Sun Belt. 10.5-point dogs. As of right now, my early lean is UL Monroe and Marshall.
Well, think about this, Cole. Marshall has only won back-to-back games once this season.
Is that right?
Yeah, went win, loss, win, loss, win. So they're a back-and-forth kind of football team. And this could be the off week for Marshall. Man, the Sun Belt's so drunk this year.
It's
with
just weird,
Texas
isn't it?
State being good, with UL Monroe being good. It baffles the mind.
It's weird. It definitely is weird. I also looked at App State Old Dominion, but that's only a 2.5-point spread. So
yeah,
not worth touching, right?
Well, App State needed everything they had to beat Georgia State last week. They were gifted opportunities to win that game comfortably. And the defense just lets the offense down week in and week out.
And then
that's a game that's a very likely upset. It's just not a game worth taking because of the points.
Diesel, the last one, Mississippi State, they're not good. They're 1-7, but they're 18-point dogs over UMass. UMass sucks. I kind of wanted to go a little wild and look at that one. And then if you believe in coaches being fired helping teams, Rice, who fired their coach, they're 10.5-point dogs at home to Navy. Maybe they come out and play motivated after a fired coach. However, I wouldn't bet against Navy right now coming off of a loss. So those are a few of mine that I'm looking at, but I'm looking at Marshall right now. And the Gamecocks, theirs is not big enough to intrigue me. Clemson, it is big enough to intrigue me. However, it being off of a bye Diesel with Louisville, that's what concerns me. Let's go to the phones before we run to a break. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. Tom wants to chime in. What's up, Tom?
Hey, guys. Hope y'all are having a good week. I got some big news. So I'm driving through downtown Summerville right now, and I saw a rainbow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I see the rainbow, and I'm going to the end of it to get the pot of gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I get that pot of gold, I'm going to go pawn it, and I'm going to put all the money, all the cash value on the Gamecocks Saturday night as my upset pick. Go Gamecocks, and I hope y'all have a good week because it's going to be a fun night in Columbia on Saturday.
2.5 points, though. Thanks for the call, Tom, as he drops the mic and, says, I'm out of here, Diesel. 2.5 points. You can pick it all you want, but what's that? I mean, that's not even going to move you up a spot, probably, is it? 2.5 points? And y'all had a rule last year on, taking small spreads like that.
Yeah, we had the rule, but there was really no point in the rule. Like, if you wanted to be stupid and take a 2.5 point spread,
You can be stupid.
You can do it. It's just not going to help you much. It's not. I'm trying to find Tom on the list here real quick and figure out where Tom is.
Diesel, I don't think Tom's on it.
Has Tom hit on an upset pick all season long?
I don't think so.
Because we do have these results, the current standings up at twitter.com/thefanupstate. Scrolling down here, it's pinned to the top. I don't think Tom even has points.
And by the way, Tom, we do appreciate you listening in Somerville.
Yeah.
Tom in Somerville.
Oh, man, look at Rob Brown all the way down there in 103rd place.
103rd place.
Half a point. That means, Cole, by the way, we have 6 Tolos at risk of falling off the leaderboard entirely this weekend if they don't hit on their picks.
It's not good.
Smitty, Chase G.
Man.
I know, man. I like seeing Smitty's name on the list, but sorry, bro. You got 1 point. Chase G, Trey from Kentucky, Eric in Spartanburg, Tolo, Phil, and Rob Brown sitting with 1 or half a point. And that also means Ruby Downs, Ben in Simpsonville, Falcon Jeremy, Forrest, Philip Rollins, and Gus Mosley. You guys could also fall off the leaderboard if you don't make a pick at all. You all have 2 points.
Diesel, my last lean. I told you the Marshall game, but my last lean, I watched SMU Saturday night. They didn't look good. They're not a good team right now. They're not playing good. They haven't played good competition. 8 o'clock Saturday night, Pitt undefeated at SMU. Diesel. Pitt is underdog. It's a 7.5-point underdog. It wouldn't be a big win, but I do have interest there.
By the way, what's up to brother BKL, who just found us on Twitter, who's also in the YouTube chat.
Let's go.
Thanks for following us on Twitter. We appreciate that. We shout you out when you awesome Tolos do awesome things like that. Speaking of awesome, I want to talk to you about something that was not awesome. I weep for the state of music in New York City. If what we saw last night at the pregame concert was the best the city can do. That's coming up next. Cole, I know you're a connoisseur of hip hop because clearly you're very street.
And the bed musically plays hip hop.
Yeah.
So, of course.
Last night, Cole, if you had any trepidation, any confusion on whether or not you were West Coast hip hop, East Coast hip hop, that was put to bed last night. But what we saw in that pregame performance by a weird looking Fat Joe.
Oh,
you saw it, right?
I did see
his
it, yeah.
face looked like he just had a facelift.
Mhm.
It looks like he had his face taped back. His face was real shiny and stretched looking. But the rest of him, I didn't lose any weight. Like he lost all the weight in his face, but nowhere else.
I have that problem sometimes.
No, man, like watching that pregame performance, like you had all the time in the world to come up with a great pregame on-field performance. And Fat Joe mumbling and stumbling and bumbling his way through the words of his own songs was the best you can do. I feel for the state of New York.
That was all they had.
Yeah, that's the best. What are they going to do tonight? Who are they going to put out there, man? Like, I would rather them prop up the corpses of Joey and Dee Dee Ramone and have them go out and perform than watch another Fat Joe performance. It was terrible, especially when you consider the vibes that we got in game one. L.A. Ice Cube. Like, it was pure vibes.
Yeah.
Everybody in the crowd was dancing. Everybody having a good time.
Well, LA's a more, I mean, I hate New York may not want to admit this, but LA's more hip than New York is.
By the way, I'm now best friends with Brother Contreras on the stream.
Are you
Because
really?
I found out he knows the neighborhood that I lived in New York City.
And by the way, shout out to him. He told us during the break he was he is listening right now or watching on the stream live from the Bronx in New York. I mean, Tolos, that's what I'm saying. We're everywhere, not just South Carolina. Tom in Somerville.
We had a listener in Northeast Texas the other day.
Oh, SMU
Up there
guy.
in the
He
Texarkana
texted back
area.
yesterday.
We're growing, baby.
And now, Brother Contreras in New York, appreciate you joining the show for the very first time today.
You know, we should have a new thing, Cole, called 2 for Tuesday, where every Tolo's job is to share wire to wire with two people.
They need to. They need to be doing that every day.
Bonus points if you're sharing it with people outside of the upstate of South Carolina. Now, we love our upstaters, and that is the core of what we do here. And of course, we need you and love you and know you because, well, we get paid in bonus for reaching out to you. But we love hearing stories of people all over God's creation in these United States finding our show.
Now, would it be better to have Frank Sinatra tonight at the Yankees game? I mean, a little New York. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking, like, what do you do? What Frank Sinatra song would really put a emphasis on how bad the Yankees have been?
Well, Frank Sinatra died in 1998, so
well, that's not going to happen.
That's
I'm
gonna
just
be
saying you could probably play.
I'm gonna
a
say
song
that's a
or two.
problem.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
Well, he couldn't be there in person.
If you want to bring the crowd down and make everybody feel sad before the show, like, do New Yorkers, Brother Contreras, help us out here? Do New Yorkers get hyped over New York? No, I don't think so.
No, but it's such a good song.
The only thing they can do, Cole, here, I'm going to offer two suggestions here. And I don't know if they could pull these things off.
Like in 3 hours.
Yeah. Number one, make a phone call, get Beyonce there. Beyonce is as New York City as it gets. Jay-Z is as New York City as it gets. Put them on the stage, on the field together. You can make it happen.
You know, the only problem with my pushback would be based on what the Yankees have put on the field, why do they deserve anybody?
Because they got to hype themselves up somehow.
Well, God, they better get the best of the best. And if that's the case, because right now they suck.
Why don't you get Kiss out there? Kiss is from New York City.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Kiss is from New York City. Get them out there. White Zombie is from New York City. You get them out there. Come on, dude.
They just need
White Zombie
baseball players before they need musicals.
They need an infusion of energy and feel. And last night we saw no energy or feel out of the New York Yankees, and that's the problem, Cole. Because tonight they're going to need it. They got a guy, Luis Gil, who can't find the strike zone. 15-7 on the year, 3.5 ERA.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And by the way, quick programming note, we will talk to Michael Duarte. You know, we were talking about these Tolos that we have all over the country. How about this? Michael Duarte joining us a little early, around 5:15. He said, I have to back it up or push it up 5 minutes because I have an interview with Dave Roberts at 5:30. So
He's
Michael Duarte,
yeah,
I mean,
he's big time.
Just the manager of the Dodgers. We
God.
get it. You've got to interview the manager. Wire to wire is not that important.
He gets on a plane to New York City, and all of a sudden he's too big time for the likes of us.
So Michael Duarte of NBC LA at 5:15. He's there. He's an awesome friend of the show. He came on a couple of weeks ago. That day you were off, Diesel. He was literally standing in the Mets dugout as he was talking to us, watching players walk by. He's fantastic. And, I get it. You got to interview Dave Roberts, do your job, but also make time for us at Wire to Wire.
The LA hitters they're going to make this Luis Gil. They're going to make him work his butt off to get balls in the strike zone. And he's not particularly great at getting balls in the strike zone. He throws a lot of them, but they're going to need everything they can get out of their bullpen to win this baseball game tonight, take the series here. Because if you're not putting an ace out there in the World Series, you're essentially saying, I'm okay with giving up a game. I'm okay with giving up game for the World Series. And we've never seen a team come back from down 3-0.
Yeah.
They may even be willing, Cole, to not throw an ace in game 5. And potentially, I mean, the bats for New York are ice cold, but they don't necessarily have to throw an ace in game 5. They could give up 2 straight games, take this thing back to LA and celebrate it in style in Los Angeles.
Brother Contreras on the stream says, unfortunately, there's a big problem. The lineup is a mess up, and the Yankees by Judge too soft with the batting averages. Yeah, it's not good. There's a lot of problems. Tiger pal Rachel Diesel also chimes in on Twitter at the Cole Bryson at Diesel on Radio. She says, 1, I think it's awesome that Freddie's having an awesome World Series. Number 2, my Yankees are playing like hot garbage. # fire Boone.
That's funny. So I think New York wins tonight, keeps this thing alive.
You think they win tonight?
Limping along. Yeah, I mean, there's too much pride. There's too much talent to say they get swept.
You would think.
But there's no clutch for this team. Aaron Judge can't touch the ball right now.
Well,
he can't put barrel on the ball. There's no reason for it other than he's just got no clutch in him.
Well, I thought that last night. I thought, Yankees are going to win tonight. I mean, there's no way down 2-0 in New York they're going to lose. What do you think, Tolo? 71307. Start your text with the word fan. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can watch the show there as well. Harold from Greenville wants to chime in. What's up, Harold?
Hey, guys. I just want to kind of touch on the World Series bit, but I followed baseball all my life as a kid, and I was a big diehard Yankee fan. But in '68, I believe it was, Detroit. I believe they played Cincinnati. That was the year Denny McLain won 30 games, and they were down 3-1. And I understand that was the first time a 3-1 team come back to win the series. And also that last game, Denny McLain pitched in that game. To help win it. Mm-hmm. But that's a Tiger. I was a big Yankee, but hey, I'm an American League fan, And as far as I think the Dodgers going to sweep them. That's just my gut. I think they're going to win tonight, unless they want, this. The Yankees in '96, the Braves took the first 2, and then they swept the Braves, and then Baltimore went in '97, '98, '99. They swept them, the 2 teams, the Padres and the Braves, and then the Mets. So that's as close as I've ever seen, as far as the Yankees with them, except for that when Boston, the year they won it, they were down 3. They had a 3-0, and Mariano Rivera, the best relief pitcher in baseball, was on the mound. And Boston Red Sox salvaged that game. They won and come back and won 4. But listen, on this Tolo, my debut wasn't good. I picked Navy, and So I'm 13. Does that mean I'm 13 and a half in the hole?
No.
No, Harold, you can't go below 0. You can't lose a point.
So I'm sitting at 0.
Yeah,
All
you're
right,
still at 0 with everybody else, and you got.
Okay. That gives me a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, I picked the one. I think I was the first one to call and pick that game.
Yeah.
And about 17 others behind me picked it.
And by the way,
one of the most popular upset picks last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Harold, also one of our Tolos on the YouTube stream, DB says, tell Harold I am also a Navy alum. Go Navy, beat Army.
There you go. Absolutely.
Appreciate you, Harold.
Thank you, sir. And hey, you got 24 hours, 23 hours basically, to make a decision and hopefully make a better pick. And I'm talking to all of you except for Ruby Downs and Gravy. Everybody else, sit in the corner, think about what you've done. We've got a lot of text to get to here, Cole. We got a lot of messages that have come in. Texter said they would have had better rappers to choose from if everybody wasn't tangled up in the P. Diddy baby oil scandal.
Oh, boy.
Woo!
That one went off the rails.
Woo, yeah. Texter says everyone knows we do things better in the South. That's true. Everybody knows that. Texter with an 864 number, Cole says, I'm listening from Mother Russia.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either. Not with an 864 number. Let's see here. New York is played on the speakers after every Yankee ... home win.
How about that?
And it's quite hyped. So Texter says New York does get the Yankee fans hyped. Interesting.
I like it. I like that song.
Matt M corrects me and says Beyonce is from Houston. Yes, Beyonce is from Houston. Jay-Z, her husband, is from New York. Apologies for the mistake there.
Yeah, please don't get birthplaces wrong of
how dare we?
Musicians.
How dare we? Texter says, is it a big shock that a lot of these young ones don't know what clutch is? They never figured out how to drive something with a clutch. Man, now we're attacking the youth for not knowing how to drive stick shift.
Where'd that text come from? Were we talking about that?
It's the same texter who said we do everything better in the South.
Oh, gotcha. Also, Billy Ho says, bring out the brooms. I don't know, man. I don't know. We've got to run, though. We have a huge segment of Daily Wires coming at you up next, getting you caught up on what's happened in the world of sports. So much happening in the world of sports. That's why we wrap it all up into one segment and call it the Daily Wires. Getting you caught up on what's happening. You've got to stay current, man. And if you listen to Wire, if you turn it on and leave it on, if you Tolo, you're going to stay up to date on what's happening in the sports world. The Dodgers, we've talked about it. They took Game 3 last night over the Yankees. 4-2 win. LA goes for the sweep tonight at 8:08. We'll be joined by Michael Duarte of NBC LA at 5:15 on the show before he talks to Dave Roberts. Monday Night Football last night, Diesel. It was a low-scoring game at first. The Steelers defeated the Giants 26-18. Pittsburgh now 6-2 on the season, while the Giants dropped to 2-6. One good team, one bad team, both heading in opposite directions.
Yeah, Pittsburgh with their quarterback controversy all season, it's not costing them anything. They're winning games.
Believe it or not. In Green Bay, Wisconsin, it was reported that the groin injury that Packers quarterback Jordan Love sustained in the win over the Jaguars is not expected to keep him sidelined long-term. A source told ESPN, a very, very big piece of news for Packers fans out there because he right now is balling out. He looks pretty good. Michigan quarterback Jack Tuttle announced Monday that he is medically retiring from football. Diesel, another one. We talked about Grayson McCall last week. Tuttle was a seventh-year senior, played 2 games for the Wolverines this season, 1 start. During the offseason, he underwent surgery to repair a ulnar collateral ligament in his throwing arm. Obviously, it wasn't because of head issues, but the arm didn't fully recover, and he has had ongoing issues and decided to retire because of it.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of college players make that decision, and it's more public than it's ever been, right? It's not like it's anything new for a college player to say, all right, enough is enough. I'm done with this. But we talk about it a lot more often. Grayson McCall going down with his head injuries, and he's ending his career because of that. Now Jack Tuttle doing the same thing because of shoulder or arm issues.
Indiana coach Kurt Cignetti said Monday he remains optimistic that starting quarterback Curtis Rourke, is that right? Did I say that right?
Yep.
Can return to the lineup for Saturday's game at Michigan State. The Upset Picks Challenge, if you did not know, if you have not heard, it opens tomorrow at 4 p.m. Get ready, Tolos. We're making a comeback this week. Diesel, you better be ready.
I'm ready to be disappointed again.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Oh.
This challenge is hard. This challenge is frustrating. You think you're on a roll, and then it humbles you real fast.
In San Francisco, the Warriors guard Stephen Curry will miss the next 2 games with a left. I don't know what this is. I thought at first it was a left pectoral strain. Perennial strain? I'm not
Perineal.
sure. Where is that at?
Perineal.
Where is that? Do you know?
Peroneal.
I just thought. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you look it up. I just thought
it's an ankle issue.
Ankle issue. He'll be reevaluated on Friday. The team announced on Monday. I'm not good. I never was good in that class where you had to identify bones in the body.
It's hard.
Oh, it's so hard.
Well, see, I learned that the foot bone is connected to the shin bone.
Yeah.
And the shin bone is connected to the knee bone. Outside of that, I'm lost on anything anatomical. Perineal tendons are the tendons that run down the outside of the lower leg behind the ankle bone and connect to the muscles in the lower leg to the muscles in the foot.
Learned something new today. How about that?
So it's in there. I mean, it's important.
It's there somewhere.
Yeah. You gotta have intact and healthy perineals.
There is only one undefeated team remaining still as of today in the NFL. We're all shocked and surprised on who it is, right? The Kansas City Chiefs. However, maybe they'll lose on Monday Night Football. 1 week from yesterday, they have Tampa Bay, who's without Chris Godwin, so that hurts. Tampa Bay currently 8.5-point dog.
Yeah, well, the Chiefs, so long as they have the referees and Chris Collinsworth in their pockets,
man,
they're going to be just fine.
No, you did not. Speaking of dogs, Clemson's currently a 10.5-point favorite over Louisville. Diesel on this Tuesday as we're getting closer and closer to the weekend matchup. South Carolina currently a 2.5-point underdog to Texas A&M.
Carolina's going to win this game.
The Panthers?
No.
I'm just kidding. I just wanted to hear you say that.
That's true. The confusion. Why do South Carolina fans want to even associate themselves with the dumpster fire that is the Carolina Panthers just by using the term Carolina.
That's funny. Speaking of the Panthers, I was kidding, by the way. The Panthers have made a trade today. They have traded wide receiver Deontay Johnson for a large pimento cheese sandwich per Adam Schefter.
We called it yesterday, Cole. We called it yesterday. This team was going to move on from its most important pieces. I mean, if I'm Deontay Johnson, I don't want to be on this roster either.
No. Like I told you, he woke up with Bryce Young as his quarterback one day, and the next day he has Lamar Jackson as his quarterback.
He's not going to catch a whole lot of balls. Then again, he's not catching a whole lot of balls in Carolina either, right? But at least there, he has a real chance to be on a team that's going to make a playoff run.
It's really interesting, man. We'll see how he does in Baltimore. An exhibition has been announced, Diesel, between the Savannah Bananas and the Clemson Tigers. How about that? 11-7, which is November the 7th, 2024. And that should be interesting.
I'm aware of the Savannah Bananas and what it is they do, meaning it's kind of like Harlem Globetrotters, but for baseball.
Yeah, kind of.
Are they actually playing an actual baseball game with silliness in between? Or like could Clemson actually win this game, like a legit win against this team?
No, it's just an exhibition.
Oh, okay.
No, but I think there will be some silliness in between. I really do. Also, Stephon Diggs, not good news. Traded to Houston. Now he's out for the season with a torn ACL. So obviously that's a big loss for
CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud. I mean, you don't want that to happen at all. And then lastly, Diesel, South Carolina fans can go swing a golf club at Williams-Brice Stadium, Upper Deck Golf. Coming to Williams-Brice Stadium. It is a one-of-a-kind golf event set for May 25th, or May of 2025, rather.
It's my birthday. We should go.
There you go. In May.
Do you want to come celebrate my birthday with me, Cole?
In Columbia.
Golf Falls in Columbia.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do that. But May 8th to May 10th is when this will happen, 2025, a part of the Upper Deck Golf event. So South Carolina fans can participate. It's pretty cool, though. Pretty cool.
There is a whole, Cole, if anybody in our listening audience has ever played the Rock Golf Club in up in the mountains of North Carolina, and it's on our upstate golf card, by the way, there's a par 3 where your tee box, depending on exactly where you tee off, you are vertically somewhere like 100 feet above the hole.
Ooh.
And it's so hard to judge the distance on that hole when you only get one shot, right? Yeah. You only get one opportunity. It's almost impossible to get a ball onto the green. So if you're going to be hitting a golf ball from the upper deck and it's kind of doing a closest to the pin challenge and you only get one opportunity, that's tough. That's going to be a blast, though. I want to do that.
Should be fun.
I really do. When we come back, Cole, let's check in on some of our most vulnerable sports figures and coaches and beg the question, how are they doing? We'll do a welfare check next on the Fan Upstate. Some of these coaches out there, Cole, they ain't doing so hot. Started off really badly in the first half of their respective football season. So we did a little pop in. We did a little check in just to see how those coaches are doing, right? Like if you call the police and say, hey, I'm worried about somebody, can you go do a welfare check? Just go knock on the door, check it out, make sure everybody's doing okay. So we're going to do that with a handful of the biggest coaches in sports. And we're going to be quick about this, Cole, because we are going to bring on a huge guest, Michael Duarte of NBC Los Angeles, who covers the Dodgers in the very next segment coming up just 13 minutes from right now. So let's get into it, Cole. Mike McCarthy, head football coach of your Dallas Cowboys. You should feel good about having a 45-29 record under Mike McCarthy. It's not phenomenal, but it's not awful. Problem is they're 3-4 this year, and it seems to be they're losing the locker room.
I think they are losing the locker room. They are losing a lot of games more than they're supposed to. You're right. He has a good record. He went 12-5 3 years in a row. This one's interesting. I don't think the issue is Mike McCarthy. I don't love, however, the offensive scheme that the Dallas Cowboys have put on the field in recent weeks. It's a very vanilla offense that I'm watching week in and week out. But the reality, Diesel, is regardless of who the coach is, they still have Jerry Jones right there pulling the strings, having terrible off seasons where you don't get what you need to win games. So for that reason, if we're going scale of 1 to 10 here, I'll say 5 out of 10 for Mike McCarthy.
I'll say 3 just because his owner is Jerry Jones. And once you become Jerry's boy, you're not going anywhere, right? Like he'll give you infinite amount of leeway, a long leash.
Well, because Jason Garrett was there way too long. So you're right. I agree with you there. You say 3 out of 10. I say 5 out of 10. Now, here's what's interesting about this welfare check that we do. We do it most weeks. Things could change. The NFL season still has a lot of football to be played, Diesel. And right now I have Mike McCarthy at 5 out of 10, but who knows? 5 weeks from now, it might be more like 10 out of 10.
If nothing changes, Cole, who's gone first? Mike McCarthy or Dak Prescott?
Oh, Mike, because of the contract.
Yeah.
Yep. I think and this is the last year of Mike's contract, by the way.
Yeah, very interesting. Let's move on to Mike Locksley, who is the head coach of the Maryland Terrapins. Sub-500 record in his tenure at Maryland. He's been there quite a while.
Yeah,
but he had 3 straight winning seasons leading up to this year. They're currently 4-4 overall, 1-4 in the Big Ten. Can't get a conference win, can't buy one. How you feeling about old Mike Locksley?
You know, this one's an intriguing ask with Mike Locksley because a lot of people will tell you if you listen to people who have been with him and coached with him, a lot of people will tell you he's a good coach. However, Maryland should be winning more games than they are, in my opinion. So I'm gonna say 5 out of 10 for him as well. Just like I put Mike McCarthy, I think he is in a situation at Maryland where, like, what's your excuse? You know, what is your excuse of why you're not being able to go out and get top talent with the portal, with an IL? So, I'm going 5 out of 10. It's getting hot.
No, I don't think so at all.
Really?
I mean, they may make a move eventually because they want to win a couple more games a year, Cole. But really, at Maryland, your job is to go out there and go 500 and be okay in the Big Ten. Don't embarrass yourself. Get your team to basketball season, or at least that's the way
your team to
it
basketball
used to be, right?
season.
I mean, you were just there to fill time before basketball season at Maryland. Look, Maryland is. You can have the goofy looking helmets all you want to, but you're still the Maryland Terrapins, and you're still sitting behind a whole bunch of juggernauts in the Big Ten. Things are getting harder and harder for you at Maryland every single year when you got Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State and Wisconsin, and now you've added Oregon and Southern Cal.
Yeah.
You've got 6 programs just off the top of my head that I say flat out are better programs.
No, I get that.
You.
I just think they have a lot of resources, man. They have a lot of resources. They should be better.
Yeah, I think he's probably more like a 4.
Okay.
Just because I don't think the AD really expects a whole lot out of
They
him.
don't care.
They don't really care that much. All right, next up, let's go to Oklahoma and Brent Venables, who went 10-3 last year, but has started very slow in his first year in the SEC. 1-4 in conference play. Just an ugly start for Brent Venables and the Sooners in their new conference confines.
This one's interesting. And by the way, Diesel, earlier in the show, we talked about the guy that says he was listening in Russia. He texted back and said American on military base in Russia.
Interesting.
How about that? I don't know.
I didn't know you could get American media on foreign soil.
Speaking of foreign soil, Brent Venables, he doesn't deserve to be on a cool seat. However, the problem is they locked him up.
Yeah.
They locked him
New
up
contract.
big time with that contract. Diesel, look, he's safe because of the contract and the buyout, but what has he done to actually show that he's safe? I hate to say it being a former Clemson guy, but I would say it's like a 3 just because he can't go. What are they going to do? They can't get rid of him.
No, they're not going to get rid of Brent Venables. He won 10 games for him last year. And the powers that be at Oklahoma, whether you put any stock in this or not, this is what they're saying. Oh, it's a new conference. Our schedule just got infinitely harder. It sucks, but hey, we'll figure it out. We'll get our collectives, set up and ready to go. We'll literally circle the wagons. We'll boomer those Sooners. And we'll get a whole bunch of money, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine in 2025. So I'm going to say Brent's more like a 2.
I know.
His contract is what it is. He's not going anywhere.
He's not. But, God, they've been horrible.
Cole, let's go down to the plains of Auburn, where Hugh Freeze is not working out so well.
No.
The experiment with Hugh Freeze, heading for his second straight losing season at Auburn. Here's the problem. Auburn wants to be Alabama, but they're trending more like UAB.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew. That's not good. And neither, in my opinion, is Hugh Freeze. I didn't like the hire. I was critical of the hire when they made it. I think it's 7.5 out of 10. I think it's pretty dang warm. You got to get that clown out of there. He's not a football coach.
Auburn tried to do a deal with the devil and find that former genius, bring him in and try to fix things for them. Sorry, Auburn. You're not going to fix it with the likes of Hugh Freeze, who tried to go whitewash his image at Liberty and could only win 8 games a year there. And then Jamie Chadwell comes in and he's dusting your legacy there at Liberty.
Liberty, yeah.
So I'm going Auburn is probably at more like an 8.
Ooh,
right now.
They're not far off.
I mean, they're hot, man. They're done with this Hugh Freeze thing.
They should be.
Yeah.
They should be at least. We don't know what they'll do, but I'll tell you what they should do. They should get rid of him and go find a football guy because Hugh Freeze looks like a clown. That's what he looks like. I'm not a big fan.
Next up, Cole, let's go back to the NFL. Let's go to Doug Peterson at Jacksonville. 2-6 start for the Jags. 2 winning seasons in a row, but just barely over 500. And what depends on your perspective, squandering the Trevor Lawrence talent, or he just really doesn't have that much to work with anyway.
This one's a tough one. Doug Peterson, the general consensus of people liked the hire. And the first year together, they weren't bad. They were actually pretty good. Made the playoffs. But it's been absolutely horrible ever since, Diesel. I tell you this, I think Doug Peterson has some heat. I don't know how much their owner actually cares, but right now, I'm going 6.5 out of 10. I just don't think whatever's happening right now, it doesn't seem like the players are on the same page and are executing the way the staff wants them to. So I'm going to go 6.5, and I know a lot of Tolos don't like the halves, but I'm going 6.5 out of 10. It's pretty hot.
Yeah, Doug Peterson's seat is starting to warm up. People are maybe seeing past the charade of what they thought Doug Peterson was going to be, and they're going to start getting tired of it. You can't take Doug Peterson and at best, 600 coach or 550 coach into your brand new stadium. You're going to have to move on soon. I think Doug Peterson's more like an 8.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's an 8.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, the talent will always stay around the team longer than the head coach will.
Okay.
And Cole, last up, let's go to Dennis Allen, head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Also a bad start for them, 2-6.
Yeah.
18-24 overall in his tenure. I mean, they're looking back, remembering the good old days of Sean Payton and saying, man, what are we doing here?
Well, here's the deal. They started off 2-0 and were the hottest team in the league. And then people realized, oh, they beat the Cowboys and the Panthers, right? 2 bad teams. And they've had a ton of injuries. They've had a ton of injuries. I was teeter-tottering on my selection here with Dennis Allen. I'm going 6 of 10. I think it's pretty warm. And look, injuries are legitimate. You can't blame that on the head coach. But at the end of the day, he hasn't done enough just in general in his tenure, in my opinion, to get the benefit of the doubt.
I think it's a little warmer than that. I'm going 7 out of 10. And it's mostly because of the way he's handled this situation over the last 36 hours with his defensive player that rolled up on Justin Herbert the way that he did. And coming out and essentially saying, nothing to see here. Nothing went wrong. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was bad. That's a bad look. What's not a bad look right now is the L.A. Dodgers. They're up 3-0 on the New York Yankees, who everybody loves to hate. We'll talk to Michael Duarte of NBC LA, who covers the L.A. Dodgers. He is there, boots on the ground. We'll get his opinion on tonight's Game 4 next. Time to hop right back into the MLB World Series conversation. Good friend of the show. We had him on a few weeks ago as he was covering the Dodgers and the Mets. Now we're going to have him right back on the program. Michael Duarte, NBCLA. Michael, the last time we spoke, you were standing in the dugout up in New York. Where are you standing right now, as we're pleasure to have you on the show?
Guys, I am standing in the club level at Yankee Stadium. It's kind of got the best signal to do this hit for you guys. Right after this, I'm going to head down for an interview with Dave Roberts, and that's where I'm standing right now inside the nicest suite on the club level here at Yankee Stadium, where they have a nice, beautiful bar and food, so it's pretty exciting right now.
Michael, can you talk about the strategy behind trotting out a bullpen staff to start this game and to play this game? Do you see this as a chance to rest the starters? Also, do you see Dave Roberts potentially throwing a starter back out there if the game starts to get away from them, or trusting that bullpen staff to get out of a jam?
So the strategy is a little different here. Dave Roberts is a master chess player. He knows this is chess, not checkers. You saw it in vintage against the Mets. A lot of colleagues of mine and fans of the Dodgers were in my DMs in that Game 5 in New York when they left Jack Flaherty in to give up 8 runs. And I was telling people he's falling on the sword, because if you can get some innings, and they end up getting almost 5 innings from Brent Honeywell after that, then the bullpen was rested and set up for Game 6 in Los Angeles. And Max Muncy told me after that Game 5 at Citi Field that he went to Brent Honeywell after he pitched 4 2/3 to kind of, lighten the bullpen load. He said, "You just won us Game 6." And he ended up being correct, obviously, as the Dodgers took Game 6 and all their high leverage bullpen arms were rested and able to stymie those New York Mets bats. So similarly now, I thought it was a masterclass by Dave Roberts once Freddie Freeman gave him a 2-run lead and Walker Buehler threw 5 shutout innings. Obviously, he's a very big game pitcher, his 3rd World Series career start, with only giving up 1 run in all 3 of those starts and allowing fewer than 5 base runners. You were able to go to your high leverage arms. The only one who didn't come out of the bullpen that we saw in Game 3 was Blake Trinan, who pitched in Game 1 and 2. He's kind of been serving as the Dodgers closer. And so that allows the Dodgers to rest all those high leverage arms possibly today. So what I expect to happen is the low leverage guys. We already saw Ben Casperia starting this game. That means the strategy is let's go low leverage and see how it plays out. If these guys give up runs, I expect to see Brent Honeywell, Landon Knack, the low leverage guys on that Dodgers pitching staff come in, save the bullpen, and possibly punt the game if the Yankees get out to a multi-run lead early. However, if the Dodgers offense can give them an early lead, you might see Dave Roberts shift the strategy and roll out those high leverage bullpen arms again to try to, end this thing, put a stranglehold on the series, step on their throat. You can use all the cliches you want and go for the sweep. But I think if the Yankees can't win this game with the low leverage bullpen arms that are going to be coming out of the Dodgers' pen today, I don't know if you belong on the same field with the Dodgers at that point.
We're talking to Michael Duarte of NBCLA. Michael, how surprised have you been? I mean, we opened the show with it today. Just the lack of effort, the lack of, Aaron Judge at the plate. He has not had a good World Series. Has that surprised you as much as it has everybody else?
It has surprised me a lot. And what I've seen from him breaking down his swing is his mechanics seem to be a little bit off of what they were in the regular season, where he was so dominant, hitting over 50 home runs. His hip seems to be opening up a little bit. Look, there's obviously a strategy to pitching against Aaron Judge. And what Shohei Ohtani actually told me, when he had his early postseason struggles before he kind of broke out in that Mets series, is he said, guys, you got to understand, in the regular season, the teams are throwing out guys, maybe their 4th, 5th starters, 6th starters. When you get to the playoffs, you're going against not only the best, let's say 10% of teams in all of Major League Baseball, but you're going against those best 10% arms. You're going against their top 2 starting pitchers, their best bullpen guys. It's best against best. And sometimes some guys are not made for that kind of pressure and the postseason moment. And talking to Yankees fans here at Yankee Stadium yesterday, the fans were telling me exactly what I just said, that they don't think Aaron Judge is built for the postseason. He maybe just doesn't have, the ice in his veins that people talk about with the killers like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. You can add Kike Hernandez and Walker Buehler even to that list, guys that just seem to elevate their game and rise when the lights are the brightest and the pressure is the most packed and intense. And the fans here think Giancarlo Stanton has that. They think Garrett Cole has that. they don't think Aaron Judge has it. And so far through the series, he seems to be lost a little bit. He seems to be it's in his head now. And, I was just looking at some of the tape when he faced Blake Trinan in games 1 and 2. Blake Trinan's not even, it's like he's throwing a Frisbee out there. And none of those breaking balls are even coming close to the place, and Judge is chasing them. And, when you're chasing pitches like that, when you used to not do that in the regular season, that's kind of when it becomes mental.
Michael J. Duarte on Twitter is where you can find his work. Can you give us any update on Shohei's shoulder with another day of rehab?
Yeah, it should only get better and better as the longer he goes on. Look, I know people were really affected when you see the greatest baseball player in the game, the modern day Babe Ruth, grabbing his shoulder, wincing in pain down on the field as he was in game 2, which is a complete silence fell over Dodger Stadium when that happened. You could hear a pin drop. I was up in the press box and I had never seen it so silent for a World Series game. That was the concern. But thankfully, I've been accustomed to these shoulder subluxations. Cody Bellinger used to have it happen to him all the time. In fact, in 2020, he popped his shoulder out while celebrating with Kike Hernandez in Game 7 of the NLCS against the Braves. They popped it back in. He was good to go 2 days later for Game 1 of the World Series against the Rays, and he hit a home run. And he told me that it bothered him. It was kind of a pain tolerance thing. It wasn't like super painful, but more irritant. And that was his right shoulder. So for a left-handed hitter, the right shoulder on your swing, especially that big uppercut swing that Cody Bellinger has, it's more impactful than the left. So Shohei told me he's feeling good. He's feeling fine. He may or may not have to get surgery after the end of the season. It depends on if there's any tears in the labrum, which it can happen when the shoulder pops out and is partially dislocated like that. But I've seen lots of players play with this kind of injury. In fact, I was talking to Tommy Edman after the game last night. Tommy told me he had it happen in high school. They popped it back in. He kept playing and continued to play the rest of the year on it. And it wasn't until after the season that he got surgery on it because he had committed to college and decided he wanted to be full strength when he got there. So that's going to be the conversation with Shohei after. But I think as far as this injury, he's been told by the trainers here to wear a sling when he's not in the cage or in the batter's box hitting. It shouldn't affect his swing, and he's told to kind of protect it when he runs. So he's given the red light, no stealing for the rest of this World Series, I think, for Shohei Ohtani.
Michael, what do you? I mean, you've been doing this a long time. You're an excellent reporter. We love having you on. But in about 7 minutes, you're going to interview Dave Roberts. What do you have up your sleeve? What kind of questions do you have for the GM before tonight's Game 4?
So the manager, for Dave.
The manager, I'm sorry.
My biggest question is kind of what we talked about here on your first question on this show, which is, you're starting Ben Kasparius in this game. That Game 3 in San Diego of the NLDS against the Padres, or excuse me, Game 4, when their back was against the wall, down 2-1, facing elimination, he went with his top 6 high leverage, high relievers. Ryan Brazier opened that game. When they closed it out against the Mets in Game 6 in the bullpen game there, they started Michael Kopech. Michael Kopech throws 100 miles per hour, and he was the Dodgers' closer for the last month and a half of the season. That should tell you he's trying to open the game by putting up a 0 and then just keep rushing out his high leverage arms to keep the opposing team hitters at bay. When you start Ben Kasparius, and this is no disrespect to Ben Kasparius, but Ben Kasparius was a guy who was in the minors most of the season, was only called up because of the injuries that the Dodgers had to their pitching staff. They were completely depleted. When you start Ben Kasparius, you're essentially saying, well, let's see what we got. We don't want to use any of those high leverage guys because we're up 3-0 in the series. So my question to Dave is going to be, is the strategy the long game? It's not the first one to win 4 straight games. It's the first one to win 4 out of 7. And I think Dave knows that. So my question would be, how does he plan to use the rest of the game in multiple scenarios? Do the Dodgers take an early lead? Then does he pivot and start throwing his high leverage relievers, which I think he would? If the Yankees take a big lead, does he throw in Landon Knack, Brett Honeywell, his low leverage guys, and punt this game to play for tomorrow in a Game 5 with Jack Flaherty back on the mound against Garrett Cole? These are the questions I'd ask. And then he doesn't want to talk about it, but if there's anyone who knows how a team can come back from a 3-0 deficit, it's Dave Roberts 20 years ago with the Boston Red Sox in 2004, stealing that base in Game 5 to spark that comeback. So he doesn't want to talk about it, but I would ask him what he learned from that. From now he's on the other side, how to kind of step on their throats and not give the Yankees life here.
Michael Duarte joining us here on the Fan Upstate. We have a listener who just tuned in and found us today, Michael, from New York. So that siren that's going on behind you, that's more like white noise for him than it is a police siren. And we appreciate you being a pro who can do a radio interview through something like that.
Yeah, I'm surprised you can still hear it in the stadium, but that's New York for you.
So, Michael, my analysis, and I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, and I couldn't be more wrong about this, was that the Dodgers team might be a little worn out from all this back and forth travel after having just had a series with the Mets, now doing it again with the New York Yankees. I know these guys are used to travel. I know that it's part of the gig, but are you surprised to this point at all that fatigue has not shown its ugly head at all for this team?
No, not at all. And there's two things I would say about it. There is fatigue when you play long series and travel. I think that happened to the Dodgers in 2021 when they went a wild card game, then 5 games with the Giants, and then 6 games with the Braves. And it wasn't necessarily mental or physical fatigue as far as exhaustion. It was literal fatigue, as in Max Scherzer, the Dodgers starter back then, had arm fatigue and couldn't pitch in Game 6 of that series. Max Muncy had hurt his UCL in the final game of the season. He wasn't available. Clayton Kershaw wasn't available. It was the fatigue where you're just losing your guys, and then those injuries pile up, and you can't end up pulling it off when you go through long series. When it comes to this campaign, the 2024 campaign, I'll tell you something that was really interesting that the Dodgers told me, and this is kind of off the record, guys, but I'm going to share it with you. I won't share their names. Players told me the best team they've seen this postseason is the San Diego Padres. They were the more balanced team. They had 3 to 4 superstars in that lineup that could slug. They got guys who could hit for average. They had an amazing bullpen, especially 3 guys that were, all-star relievers for them. They played great defense. Manny Machado is a great example of that. They had great starting pitching. Dylan Cease, Michael King, among others. When they got past the Padres, when they went down 2-1 and came back and won that series, there was this huge sigh of relief against the team that we're going to do this now. We're going to beat all these teams. We're going to win the World Series. They looked at the other teams still left in the playoffs, still left in the tournament, and they said, none of these teams are as good as the Padres. We're going to roll through all these teams. And that's seemingly what's happened. And then the last thing I'll say to your question about fatigue, Max Muncy, again, he told me, we've already flown to New York from West Coast to East Coast across the country. And they actually had the strategy to fly out the night after Game 2. And they arrived here early morning, Game 3 on the off day. They had dinner together as a team. They celebrated. Whereas the Yankees chose to fly on that off day and not hold a workout. And they came in Sunday during the day, whereas the Dodgers arrived like early Sunday morning and had a whole day to rest and sleep. They've been doing it. They did it against the Mets. The Yankees hadn't flown further than Cleveland after their first playoff run. So it was the first time they had to do the East Coast, West Coast trip. And I think the experience actually was more important for the Dodgers than the fatigue factor you mentioned.
Michael, fantastic stuff as always, man. We appreciate you hopping on with us. Have a great time tonight, and we'll see who wins Game 4.
Sounds good, guys. I'm going to go say hi to Dave for you.
That's Michael Duarte. Fantastic job, fantastic stuff as he's about to interview Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers. Really appreciate him, Diesel, in a hectic day that he has. Right before you're interviewing the manager of the team that's about to win the World Series, what does he do? He makes time for you and I, Diesel, over here, or down here rather, in South Carolina. Appreciate him for taking the time. Always fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic guest there, Cole. And man, baseball guys' abilities to pull names and stats and remember what happened in this series and that series and who the manager was and who played first base for that team in 2000. Like, it's unreal what these guys are able to do. So
he's
really
talented, man.
Yeah, really impressed with his work. And we of course, I think you should go give him a follow at Michael J. Duarte on Twitter. He'll obviously have a lot of fantastic content. And if the Dodgers do end up winning this World Series, which it looks like they are, very well poised to go and do. So, go give him a follow. And when you do, make sure you like his stuff, share his stuff, and let him know that, hey, I heard you on the Fan Upstate. That keeps him coming back. Like the guest, keeps him coming back.
Absolutely does. I was really fascinated, Diesel, by what he said. Again, kind of off the record. He didn't name drop any names, which of course he didn't, but he did the right thing there. I was really fascinated with what he said about the Yankees, the Dodgers, and how they felt as if once they got past the Padres, they were cruising. They were on cruise control because, he's probably right. And those players that told him that off the record, without naming names, are probably right. The Padres are the better team than the Yankees. And the Dodgers felt like, hey, once we get past this series, and again, to his point, they were down 2-1. Once we get past this series, guys, It doesn't matter who we play. It doesn't matter if it's the big, bad Yankees. We're going to cruise, and that's exactly what the Dodgers have done. And I'll even say this, Diesel. Yes, it's a bullpen game tonight. Yes, Los Angeles isn't throwing an ace. However, if you asked me right now to place a bet on tonight's game, I just don't have a ton of faith in the Yankees right now. I mean, what have they done to show you faith?
No, they're not hitting the ball well right now. Nobody up and down this lineup is hitting the ball well right now. So if you can go out there and get a win in Game 4 of the World Series and sweep the New York Yankees, essentially with your backup quarterback, that is flexing on the other team. And I appreciate the way that Michael put it there. He says, you know what, if we're going to trot this out there, and if the Dodgers end up not winning this baseball game, it's okay. We'll just be punting it away, getting back to when we can rest our starters just a little bit longer, give them another night to rest. You don't have to. You're in such a big lead right now. You don't have to have Game 4 of the World Series. Sweeping sounds great, but they don't care about that. They could be just as happy winning in 5, winning in 6. They don't think they want to win in 7 because then that makes things a little bit hairy. But, they're making the right moves, Cole, to keep this pitching staff fresh down the stretch if this thing extends a little bit farther.
I'm with you. I don't think it's going to last long either. However, for our purposes, you and I talking about the World Series and for the fans out there that are baseball fans and about to have baseball season come to an end, wouldn't it be interesting if the Yankees won the night at home? Okay, the bullpen game gives them some confidence. Tomorrow night, the Yankees at home again, get the win. They fly back to L.A. All of a sudden, if you can get on that plane, it's a 3-2 series. And I'm not saying they come back and win it, but in terms of just having a series that's worthwhile, that's worth watching for Braves or for baseball fans, it would be, the antics would be nice to follow if they could somehow win tonight, maybe defend home field and win tomorrow, getting on that plane, going back to LA for what would be Game 6. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but boy, it'd be fun to cover.
Look, these guys are flying in the lap of luxury. They're flying they're not flying commercial like the way the rest of us fly. They're flying in big old comfy chairs, but still traveling is exhausting.
You don't think they're flying Spirit?
No, I don't think they're flying Spirit. I don't think they want to take that kind of risk. You might not get your bags. You might show up with no baseball bats, no gloves when you get there. Cole, but the Yankees are making a couple of lineup changes tonight, trying to shuffle some things up just a little bit. Giancarlo Stanton was moved down from 4 to 5. He's switching with Jazz Chisholm, so they're trying to make a little bit of a hitting move, see if you can get something going there.
Well, Jazz hadn't been good either. That's the problem.
I know. It's like so you're not really doing a whole lot, right? You're not really doing a whole lot, and the only thing I don't understand the logic behind this.
Thank God we have college football on the night. I mean, I'm going to be watching both. By the way, YouTube TV is the best.
They're also going to start. By the way, they're also going to start Austin Wells at catcher, who didn't start in Game 2.
Okay, that's an interesting note. Again, I'll be watching. It's the World Series. I last night watched, but I found myself way more intrigued with the NFL game just because Freddie Freeman, went up big and it wasn't close. And they scored too late, but that game wasn't close last night between the Yankees and the Dodgers. But I know, Diesel, you know what? Eventually the season has to come to an end.
Hey, guess what? If this series is over tonight, it's officially college basketball season.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
It's going to start here in a few weeks. It'll be here before you know it. But we've talked about the Yankees down 3-0. Don't you have something a little more positive for us in the next segment? I mean, can you please give us something positive?
I wish I did, Cole. I wish I did. The only thing I have for you is, like when you're watching a movie with fighter pilots and they have to eject out of the car. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you something that makes it easier just to reach up, grab those handles, pull, and shoot your backside outside of that plane. We'll talk about that next on the Fan Upstate. Cole, Dave Canales was brought in to the Carolina Panthers organization to inject some positivity, to be a quarterback whisperer, to fix a broken quarterback.
Yeah.
He's kind of done one of those things and still doing an okay job at that thing, which is the positivity. I mean, he could be like you and I, who are just completely down and out on this team, but he's not. He's not. But he's failed miserably when it comes to Bryce Young. Carolina Panthers made a big old trade today, Cole, sending their best wide receiver out of house, and they didn't even get a player for him.
They don't deserve a player. They suck.
They didn't get a player for him. The Carolina Panthers, it was announced today, have traded Deontay Johnson to the Ravens.
Ooh.
They traded Deontay Johnson and a 6th round pick, which is a nobody. Nobody cares. Very seldom does a 6th round pick make the team, for a 5th round pick, who very seldom, Cole, makes the team.
It's true.
This is a head scratcher for me, for the Carolina Panthers. Now, if you maybe there's something more built into this deal that we don't know about, but to my knowledge at this point, I haven't found anything that says the Baltimore Ravens are going to take some money off of the Carolina Panthers books, because sometimes they put that in the deal, right?
Well, it shows that they're tanking. It shows that they're sellers. They have to be sellers at this point.
But they don't. They're still losing in the net on this. They're losing a player and a prospect, and they're just getting back a slightly better prospect. It's the Panthers. It's a 2-for-1 deal, and you're on the wrong side of this thing, Carolina. The hell are you doing?
We talked about it yesterday. Deontay Johnson's their best receiver. There's no doubt. I do believe the Panthers are in an interesting spot where, again, I believe I mentioned it last week. I don't know if it clears up cap space or not, but I'll tell you this. There's no point in having good guys on your roster, good team, or good players, rather, if you're just going to lose every game regardless. I don't know what their exact reasoning was with this trade, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter in terms of, again, we're not looking at financials. If we're looking at solely wins and losses, it doesn't matter if they have them or don't. It wouldn't matter if they had Michael Irvin out there, Diesel. They stink. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. They've got way bigger issues.
Yeah, I mean, look, for Deontay, this is a good trade. I wouldn't call it an elite trade. It's not a perfect scenario trade for Deontay. Now, he's going to a really good team who stands a good chance to make a deep playoff run, probably not win the Super Bowl because, I mean, come on, it's the Ravens. They don't win Super Bowls with Lamar Jackson, but they do make it deep into the playoffs. They do make good runs. But the problem here, Cole, is number one, they don't run 3 wide receiver sets very often this year. The Baltimore Ravens don't. And they don't actually throw the ball all that much. So I don't see how Deontay, who is going to get a whole lot of quality reps and catches with this team. I mean, look, there's a whole bunch of journeyman players who bounce here, bounce there.
Yeah.
This feels like he's just heading for that kind of career, where he gets traded around. He's added to a situation that's already going on to make it more attractive. But Cole, this one has me scratching my head all the way around for all parties, other than maybe Deontay just wants to, and he's an older wide receiver, right? Have him go to a team that stands a chance to win something.
Yeah, I know. Again, you mentioned it. Baltimore sending a 2025 5th rounder to Carolina for a 6th rounder. Ian Rappaport reported it earlier today. It's a cheap price, though. On the flip side of it, Diesel, for the Ravens, when you look at what they're getting, it's a cheap price to add some depth. It's a cheap price to add a receiver as a weapon, right? Because we know from the Carolina Panthers standpoint that no deal is probably going to be a good deal at this point. But the Ravens, I mean, they're getting this guy to add to the offense with Zay Flowers. You mentioned Derrick Henry. They're running the ball a lot more. Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. So for them, hey, we're getting a guy for almost free It adds depth at a very important position group so that Zay Flowers doesn't have to feel like he's 100% of the guy. Johnson was Diesel in the final year of his contract. So I don't know if he's a long-term guy for Baltimore or not, but it'll be interesting.
He had spoken to ESPN a month ago and said that he liked being in Carolina, that he was interested in re-signing with the Carolina Panthers after the season. Well, then things obviously went very, very south. They lost a whole lot of football games, and I guess he's kind of over it. He's like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Well,
okay, it's not fun. I'm not having a good time.
He wanted to be there if they were going to win. He got that Andy Dalton win and was like, oh, man,
nice.
This is nice. But it didn't last long. You know, the reality of it is for Carolina, we mentioned Diesel. If you're the Panthers GM, if you're Dan Morgan, you are in an interesting spot now where obviously you've got to sell tickets. You've got to put butts in the seats, and that's incredibly challenging right now with the product that's on the field. However, Dan Morgan has to almost, Diesel, in my opinion, be completely not focused on the product on the field and be 100% focused on what am I going to do in the offseason to make this team better, because we mentioned it last week. You just throw a dart right now at the dartboard. That's kind of where the problems are. You're going to hit a problem if you hit the freaking board. So you've got to start figuring out what you're going to do, get rid of some, cut some fat. Again, we don't know if it helped them financially or not and got some money off the board, but you've got to start focusing on the offseason. I hate to say that in the middle or at the end of October, but the offseason's already here for the Carolina Panthers. It's time to start figuring out now how you're going to be better for 2025.
Texter gets in here at 71307, and he says, in addition to the pick swap, Baltimore will only eat $676,000 of his contract. Ooh. Panthers will eat the other $3 million. How
about that?
God, so they're just getting their asses kicked at every phase of this trade. I mean, if you want to take that trade where they take, essentially $700K off of your plate, then I'm like, I need a third and a fifth.
Yeah.
You would third and a fifth for the guy, but taking just a fourth, it doesn't compute to me.
Well, again, what do the Panthers actually do that does make sense?
That's true.
I just don't know what their end goal. Like, I would love to ask Dan Morgan, not only what are your goals right now, because I don't want to hear the winning game. What are your end goals for the 2024 season? Because you're not competitive. You've got one win on the season. Yeah. You've got to figure out now what your end goals are so that this Panthers fan base, when the draft comes around, just like last year, Diesel, it doesn't seem like it was long ago, because it wasn't. You and I in April were sitting at Dave & Buster's trying to figure out what the Panthers should do. They took Xavier Legette. Yeah, he's a good receiver, but a guy at a receiver position isn't turning the franchise around. It almost, and I hate to be this negative for Panther fans out there, it almost feels like they need like 4 drafts in the month of April in 2025 to actually rebuild this roster.
They need some compensatories. Yeah. They need all kinds of stuff. They need all the help that they can get. Cole, it's not a good look when Dave Canales is fielding questions in the post-game press conference after the Denver game, being asked why Deontay Johnson didn't play in that game. He was injured. Played the week prior with a rib injury, and he was asked if he kept Deontay Johnson out to protect his trade value, and he said, "Yeah, you're gonna have to talk to Dan about that." That's not a good look. So it's pretty obvious at that point that it's not gonna work out for the Carolina Panthers. That he's not gonna stay with the Carolina Panthers. Looking at overthecap.com, one of my favorite websites, Cole, keep track of salary cap money. The Carolina Panthers are going to be in the top third of the bottom half of teams that have money next year. So they're going to have, as of right now, just shy of $42 million to play with next year. When you compare that to the Patriots, who have $132 million to play with, they've got a quarter of the money of the teams that have the most money to play with. So getting contracts right, getting money taken off the books is going to have to be Dan Morgan's number one priority this offseason. Sell, sell, sell. Who cares? You're going to see a bunch of names out there that you've never heard of. Doesn't matter, because they're not going to win anyway.
Not gonna win, says Diesel. Diesel, I have a question for you as well as the Gamecock Tolos in the very next segment. I want to talk about pressure. Relatively speaking, I know the Facebook idiots on our comment section already. Well, Dabo Swinney doesn't have any. I know he doesn't have pressure in terms of overall big picture pressure. Relatively speaking, though, I have a pressure question for the Gamecock and Tiger fans in the next segment. Stick around. I need your answer next. Diesel, I'll tell you what, man, I absolutely love our Tolos out there, but we have some of the dumbest freaking idiots on our Facebook page, and I'm sorry, I should not have said that, but by God, every time I post something, every time we post something, you have the dumbest people on God's green earth that respond back to you and say, I don't know why you'd ask this question. There's no pressure on Dabo's. I know. I asked the question because it's a content question. We're doing a segment about it on the show. But, Clemson fans, every fan base has these fans, Diesel. But, man, are they quick to be defensive of their coach in a heartbeat. You can't even ask a freaking question anymore.
Well, you hope, Cole, that you can get people to explain why there's no pressure on Dabo Swinney. Instead, they just say, you guys are a bunch of idiots for even asking a question like this. Who do you think you are asking a question? It's sad, man. It's boring. I don't even bother with the people who answer the question like that.
It's so dumb.
Because they're not here to engage. They're just here to put their heads in the sand and sing Kumbaya. Everything is fine. Nothing's going wrong here. I mean, come on. Let's have a debate. Let's spark a debate and ask the question.
Sorry, Justin, on our Facebook comment section. I didn't mean to go at you like that. But I did.
Before you didn't say at all who it was.
Sorry.
Now it's Justin.
I apologize.
From Simpsonville. He lives on Ranch Road. That Justin.
Here's his
the
address.
one with the red pickup truck. That guy.
No, I'd never do that, but I did say his name. All right, so I put the question out there earlier today, Diesel. Who has more pressure on them right now, October 29th, relatively speaking? Shane Beamer, in terms of when I talk about pressure with Shane Beamer, I mean pressure of finishing the season and not having just a fizzle out, right? A disappointing end. Or does Dabo Swinney have more pressure to show that he actually has a team that can contend and not get run off the stage if they play a contender, which we think they will here soon?
It's a different kind of pressure, but there's still pressure.
That's right.
There's still pressure on both of these head coaches. One is trying to keep the train on the tracks.
That's right.
And the other one is just trying to make sure that the train doesn't slow down. And we'll start with Shane Beamer because that's, I think, an easier one to parse out. Shane Beamer has his team playing relatively good football right now, right? You looked good 2 weeks ago when you played at Oklahoma, defensively speaking. You didn't look good offensively speaking. But, you've got a chance here with a couple of weeks to go and some very, very difficult opponents, Cole, to really show the country what this South Carolina football team is made of. To this point, they've been good, they've been bad. They've been up, they've been down. They've been defensive, they've been offensive. So they're kind of been all over the place this season.
Yeah.
And now is when the rubber really meets the road because you got a ranked Texas A&M, a Vanderbilt that was ranked last week, a ranked Missouri, and a ranked Clemson left to go. This is when the season gets really, really hard. And when you juxtapose that against the fan base that is tired of losing, but still kind of likes you because they think you're a pretty good guy, their opinions can change on you very, very quickly.
They can.
We've had a lot of Tolos who have texted in and told us, enough. It's your job to win. You need to start winning. You're doing great in the recruiting. You make us all feel good with your hashtag welcome home tweets. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, we want you to win. That's what we care about.
So, yeah, listen, when you talk about the two levels of pressure, you said it, and I agree with you. The two levels of pressure are completely different. And that's what a lot of fans just don't want to grasp. A lot of fans don't understand. I know, Diesel knows that the level of pressure that Dabo and Shane Beamer have are not even remotely close. We know that. But I'm asking, when it comes to the expectations, right? When it comes to Dabo Swinney getting his team across the finish line this year in a way, Diesel, that the team doesn't fizzle out the same way they started. The team doesn't end the season the same way they started the season. And for Shane Beamer, on the same token, you've got pressure on you. Yeah, you're in a different situation. You've got pressure to win games because you are in the SEC. It's a much tougher job. However, there is also an added level of pressure because the last time you came off of a bye week, you crapped the bed. You did not look good against Ole Miss. So there's pressure in that regard. There's also pressure in the regard of finishing out the season in a very strong way. And then there's pressure of the very last game of the season being against Clemson. You know, we all know how much pressure is involved in that game. There's pressure on both coaches in that game when South Carolina and Clemson play each other. I just really do find it intriguing that the level of pressure might be the same regardless of what the fans think and regardless of what the fans say, because while you may think that Dabo doesn't have any pressure at all, again, relatively speaking, different levels of pressure, if Dabo Swinney, Diesel, if he ends the season the same way he started the season, Clemson fans are not going to have a good feeling going into the offseason and coming back and running this thing back in 2025 if there's no substance at the end of the season.
With Dabo and Clemson, the pressure is on you to remain perfect down the stretch because we know the national punditry doesn't think highly of the ACC. You know, you can look at the AP top 25. Yeah, you can look at the AP top 25 and you can see that they don't respect the ACC. You've got Clemson, who fell after a bye week last week, fell all the way down to number 11, and this is after putting up 500 yards of offense again a few weeks ago. And then you got to scroll all the way down to number 18. Pitt, a 7-0 football team, is 18th in the country. Where do you have to go up to find the bulk of the undefeated teams, Cole? You got to go up to number 5. To find the undefeated teams. Oregon 1 undefeated, Penn State 3, Miami 5, BYU 9, Iowa State 11, Indiana 13, and you go all the way down to 18 and you find Pitt, and that's an indictment on the ACC. So I think Dabo Swinney knows and should have in the back of his mind, and this is the pressure that we're talking about, that he has to remain perfect, because if Clemson were to lose to Louisville this weekend or lose to Pitt in a couple of weeks, now the committee is looking at that and saying, this Clemson team got stomped by Georgia. And once they finally started playing some decent teams in the ACC, they took an L. So if they're in the at-large conversation, that's how you end up getting left out.
Well, it is. They have pressure on them, yes, to be perfect. But I would also, and again, this is where I have such an issue with like the Clemson fans that just don't even want to have the conversation because they're out there. There's 2 of them on our Facebook comment when I posted the question. There's no pressure on a coach that has 2 national championships. Again, this is why they comment on the Facebook page. They don't interact with the show because they'd be shut down, and they don't want to hear that they're wrong on the show, Diesel, because you and I both know that Dabo Swinney, to your point, yes, has pressure to be perfect because, let's face it, a 1-loss Clemson team is already on the verge. If Pitt, SMU, and Clemson all went out, they're already on the verge of being in the danger zone. So a 2-loss Clemson team, to your point about what you just said, being in the ACC, not having the benefit of the doubt, a 2-loss team is done. A 2-loss Clemson team is toast. So I would say, there's pressure there, but there's also pressure for you to hold your state, hold your own in the battle between you and South Carolina. And then the third level of pressure, I would say, is also, and again, these levels of pressure are not the same, not only in terms of what South Carolina has, but in terms of the same to each other. But that third level of pressure, I would say, Diesel, is the pressure of once you get past being perfect, once you get past the South Carolina game, once you get to the ACC championship and show that you're the class of the ACC, in my opinion, there's now a third level of pressure to show that you are not who you were back in August when you went to Atlanta and couldn't score for the second straight time against Georgia. You've got to show that you can not only compete, but win a playoff game. Because if Clemson poops the bed in the postseason and doesn't win a playoff game, assuming they beat Miami, Diesel, and get there, I don't think you've really learned much about this Clemson team. that started with a loss to Georgia, ran roughshod on the Sisters of the Poor, and then once they got into the playoffs again, they crapped the bed again and didn't beat anybody that was actually worth a you-know-what. And now we're having the same conversation we had in August. What has really changed if that happens?
Well, we also haven't discussed the fact that, Shane Beamer no longer can hide behind, well, it's my offensive coordinator's fault, because he's been through multiple offensive coordinators at this point. He also has the pressure, and every coach feels this pressure. I'm not saying it's unique to South Carolina at all. But, Cole, there's going to be a lot of big programs who are going to say, hey, Clayton White, you want to come over here and make a couple more extra $1 million than you were making at South Carolina? Clayton White has built a phenomenal defense at South Carolina. And now just imagine if who's bad at defense right now? Alabama. Alabama's not that good at defense this year. What if Kalen DeBoer says, you know what? I got to get back to playing really good defense. Clayton White, why don't you come on over here? Yep. And Clayton White can bring a handful of players off of this team, because players love to transfer when their position coach and their coordinators leave on them. So, I mean, again, it's not a position.
Well, he'll be a
head
coach. Clayton White will be a head coach.
Yeah, I'm sure he will eventually. Yep. I'm just saying, like, if he's making, and I don't know what Clayton White's making at South Carolina without looking that up.
Right.
If somebody is willing to throw him more money, it says initially his salary was $900K a year. Recently, his salary was increased to $1 million a year. His contract right now is 1.2 at South Carolina. You telling me that Alabama's not going to throw $2 million at him?
Sure.
You telling me that somebody else who's not good at defense right now, but is in a big time program like Miami? What if Miami said, hey, guess what? Clayton White, we can't stop anybody. And Clayton White came from the ACC. He played at NC State. What if Miami says, hey, Clayton White, we want to throw $2.5 million. We'll double your salary to come down here to Miami. We already have an amazing offense. Well, why don't you come down here and bring your defense and bring half your players with you? That's pressure.
There is.
No matter what anyone says.
And again, when you have good defense coordinators, that's going to happen. When you have good coordinators in general, that's going to happen. And like I said, I think one day, I don't know how soon, but Clayton White, in my opinion, will be a head coach. And he's going to have calls this year because of the job that he's done. And another added element of pressure that we haven't gotten to yet. Again, that's why I go back to, you have to keep it relative, but you also have to pull back the curtain. Shane Beamer and the pressure, Diesel, that he has on him to keep guys like Dylan Stewart, to keep these really good players that have performed so well in 2024, because we all know that just as this year has shown, South Carolina's improving. Their defense is getting better. They have a good DC. Quarterback's not playing bad. We all know that just as quickly as South Carolina's gotten better, they can just as quickly fall if Clayton White were to go, if you lose Dylan Stewart, if somebody offers, one of your best defensive players a lot more money, your offensive line's still not better because you won't put Sean Elliott in the right job, and all of a sudden your offense, your wide receivers, maybe they get a little bit better. But that's the SEC. That's my point. Another added layer of pressure. Just as quickly as you can rise, Diesel, you can fall just as quickly. So I would say ultimately Beamer has more pressure than Dabo. I still think Dabo has small elements of minute pressure, not big picture pressure of, will he keep his job? We all know that. That's a very elementary question, but I think Beamer has more.
That's why I love the difference, Cole, between a Tolo and some rando who followed our social media page, or it shows up on their feed because somebody they know posted about it. You Tolos are operating at a higher level than your average sports fan, because you know that we get to have and we enjoy having these nuanced discussions, and we want you to have opinions about it. We want you to be able to defend and explain your position rather than just shutting it down and saying, that's crazy, nobody would do. No, tell us why. Tell us why we're wrong. Yeah. We want to debate you. Like, that's the whole point of social media and of raising interesting questions, is we want to debate you. We don't want to tell you that we're smarter than you. We don't want to tell you that we're righter than you, not to take the name of the show from Bill Ryder, just saying, we want you to have a conversation with us because it's entertaining. It's interesting. Sometimes you ask rhetorical questions, or you ask sometimes even silly sounding questions because you know it's going to spark a debate.
Yeah.
And that's why you set things up. I do wonder from South Carolina Gamecock fans, and as we're approaching here the tail end of the segment, text in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Let us know, Tolos, if South Carolina does falter down the stretch and they lose a handful of these games. There's no way they go winless against the remaining four
they'll beat Wofford.
Power teams. They'll beat Wofford.
Yeah. Power
let's just say they go 2-2. Are you still going to feel some special kind of way about Shane Beamer that you felt over the last 2 or 3 years?
With the remaining four core programs, Power 4 programs, rather.
Yeah, with Clemson, Vandy,
Missouri, and
A&M.
Yep.
Yeah, let's just say you go 2-2 in those games.
Which is a possibility.
It matters which one you win and lose. Let's just say you beat A&M and Vandy, or let's just say you lose to A&M and Clemson. You beat Vandy and Missouri. Which, hey, going 2-2 down that stretch is a good feeling, right?
Because you throw in a third.
It's going to get you to a bowl. Yeah, it's going to get you to a
bowl.
bowl game. But you haven't beaten the good programs while they're good, right? You're beating now a down Missouri, and you're beating a Vandy that is a good story this year, but has kind of hovered right there in that 22, 23, 24, 25 range, and then falling out and could possibly jump back in. I think Vandy beat South Carolina. They jump back into the top 25.
I'll tell you what, last week I actually said, it's funny you bring that up, because right now they're 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina is. I think they lose to Vandy. Oh, excuse me. Let me back up. I think they lose to A&M this week. I said Vandy by mistake. I think they lose to A&M at home. I think they beat Vandy. So after Vanderbilt, we're split. So we're 5-4 now. I think they beat Missouri 6-4. You beat Wofford 7-4. I think they lose to Clemson 7-5. So obviously still bowl eligible +1. You could still have an opportunity with a bowl win to get to 8 wins. So the reality, 8-5, that would be a successful season compared to what you've gone through in the past couple of years, and compared, in relative term to being in the SEC, the toughest conference there is. 8-5 is not going to be a horrible year for Shane Beamer. In fact, Gamecock fans would probably sign up for that most seasons. I do have them going 2-2, though, Diesel, with the next Power 4 or the next 4 Power 4 opponents.
Cole, when we come back, we're headed to game number 4 and the opportunity for the Los Angeles Dodgers to sweep this World Series. Is it all Aaron Judge's fault? No, but he is the biggest spark plug and hitter on this team, and he is failing hard. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what we think is going to happen in game number 4 tonight on the other side, right here on 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app.
takes us one. It takes us one swing, one at bat. One play, everything changes for us. So that's just the mindset you got to have going into this. And like I said, it just takes one game.
Are you surprised this team is in this situation right now? Down 3-0.
No, we're playing a good team over there. They got a great ball club. We knew it was going to be a dogfight, so we got to come out swinging. They come out, 2 runs in the first, but we got to keep having good at bats throughout down the stretch. So we can change everything with one game tomorrow.
Is that the message in the clubhouse tonight, or does anything need to be said in this situation amongst the players?
No, we all know what's at stake. We all know, our backs up against the wall. So, we gotta get it going our way. That's what it comes down to. We got a lot of veteran guys in here, been there, done that before. So, we just gotta lean on each other, keep playing the game that we played all year long, and the game that got us into this position. So, like I said, it just takes one game.
How did you feel to play tonight yourself?
We didn't get any hits, didn't drive anybody in, but I gotta get something done up there.
Aaron Judge has struck out 20 times in this postseason. Cole,
is that a lot?
Yeah, it's quite a few. I think Aaron Judge should have to get back $1 million for every strikeout.
Oh, that'd be
$20 million.
That'd be a lot of money for old A-Rod. He didn't sound, like he gave the right answers there.
He's a smooth guy.
He is, but he didn't sound confident. Oh, you gotta win one game. You gotta win one game. I mean, just all.
He sounds like a guy who knows they're about to get swept.
He knows. He's already booked his vacation in the Dominican. Are you kidding me?
I'm gonna take a $20 million trip.
Yeah, he knows it's over. I think he knows. Look, he said it a minute ago. We got here. We had a good season. But there's no way. And I know you and I are radio hosts who sit in the studio and are not playing the actual game. But you can't convince me that a guy that's playing the game down 3-0 against the best team in baseball actually has actually believes that his team has a chance of putting together what's never been done.
Have they thought about maybe giving him a massage, put him in a dark room?
This isn't Deshaun.
Anything,
this is Aaron Judge.
Anything to just loosen him up a little bit. He's 6 for 43 this postseason, Cole. He's reaching a lot. He's chasing balls more than he normally does.
Well, you heard Michael Duarte earlier say that he felt like Aaron Judge's swing was different in the postseason than it was during the regular season. And again, I thought that goes back to how good baseball guys are. I thought Michael Duarte hit the nail on the head there talking about Aaron Judge, Diesel. He said, look, good pitchers know how to pitch to good hitters differently in ways that they didn't see in the regular season, talking about opening his hips up a lot more. And Michael Duarte might be onto something there. So he hasn't, regardless of if it's him or the opposing pitchers that are really doing a good job, he has not been relevant in the postseason.
Cole, I mean, look, we have all put a lot of this on Aaron Judge, and he deserves a tremendous amount of public criticism for disappearing in the World Series. But the other players on his team deserve a lot of hate as well. Juan Soto deserves some pressure. Jazz Chisholm deserves some pressure.
100%.
There's so many good guys on this team, good hitters on this team, Cole, who have just completely disappeared. Giancarlo Stanton, Gleyber Torres, all good hitters who have all gone ice cold. And you can't explain it sometimes why the entire team gets the yips. It just happens.
Well, it's like I said earlier in the show, just as baseball guys know that hitting is contagious, not hitting is just as contagious. And that's true.
We talked about it with the Atlanta Braves all season long. How frustrating was it that the Atlanta Braves would be red hot for a series and then ice cold the next series?
It really is. And again, we've talked about it several times already, but I do think that I do think that Aaron Judge kind of realizes that the writing's on the wall here.
It's over.
It's over.
It's over.
Also have audio from Aaron Boone, another Aaron, but this was Aaron Boone last night after Game 3.
Aaron, the offense really has not produced yet this series, just 4 for 20 with runners in scoring position. Why do you think it has been a struggle for those guys?
Yeah, just haven't done that, and we've hit a couple balls in the seats probably in the first few, and then Doogie tonight to finish it there. But we got to find a way right now. I feel like Buehler and Yamamoto did a good job of taking a lead and really attacking and getting ahead, and because I felt like in both games, Yamamoto and Buehler early on, we were making them work a little bit. They were a little bit in and out of the zone, and then once they got that lead, they did a good job of attacking and kind of grabbing the count leverage. So, we got to find a way to grab one. We got to find a way to hopefully try and get a lead. But either way, we got to just, really focus on the next play and trying to get a win.
Other questions for Aaron? Barry?
Cole, if I was a
Barry's taking a little long to answer the question or ask a question.
If I was a manager, I wouldn't last long, because I couldn't deal with the media asking asinine questions like 4 for 20 with runners in scoring position. Why do you think they're not hitting the ball? I don't know. Like, the difference is a millimeter. A difference between a home run and a pop fly to deep center field is a millimeter of the bat being ahead of where it is, behind where it is, above, below, whatever it may be. Yeah, I don't know.
They're not hitting the ball.
They're not hitting the ball.
You know it. Everybody knows
We've taught them all season long. You've seen it all season long. You've enjoyed all season long them hitting the ball very well, and all of a sudden, bam.
But you know what? It's got to suck. Like, to get to the World Series, Diesel, and have an incredible season. The Yankees are back. It's been 3 decades, it feels like, not quite, but almost, since the Yankees have been good, since the Yankees have been relevant, especially in the postseason.
Right, this could have kicked off a whole new era of dominance from the Yankees.
Not only can you not win the World Series, not only can you not win a game, you can't score runs. You can't get base hit. You can't put runners on base. Forget run support. You can't even get the – you can't even hit Freddie Freeman in the back so he can't hit a home run. Start throwing at his head or something, man. I mean,
just walk him.
My gosh, if he homers tonight, I swear, there's no way at some point you've got – and again, with it being a bullpen game, maybe their strategy pitching around Freddie's different. But you can't just go out there and just continue to throw them lobs and let them continue to park it in the right freaking field stands, because that's what he's done the first 3 weeks, or the first 3 games, rather.
Texter, this is from CJ from Greer, says Yanks base running and defense is just as bad.
It's not good.
Nope.
Not good.
Do you have one more for us?
I have one more piece. I don't know what Barry said, but let's see what Barry asked Aaron.
He's at the point here where the struggle is so complete that he's not going to be able to bust out of it at this point?
No, I don't believe that.
So basically, Barry's asking Aaron Boone if he thinks Aaron Judge is so far down, he's not going to be able to bust out of it.
Be able to bust out of it at this point?
No, I don't believe that.
What do you think he has to do for it to happen?
Come ready to go
Hit
tomorrow,
the ball.
He's Aaron Judge, and just continue to work and hopefully get on time and connect on some.
Look, it's a difficult job, Cole, asking major sports figures like managers of the New York Yankees in the World Series.
Yeah.
Interesting and compelling questions. And eventually you get to the point where you're kind of out of questions. How do you keep asking the same questions week in and week out? And it's funny, Cole, we talk off the air a little bit. There are guests that we bring on who cover certain teams here in the area that have been so consistently good that it's not really all that interesting to talk about. And with this team, with the Yankees, they've been so consistently bad that everybody's just sort of throwing their hands up in the air like, oh, coach, Aaron no hit ball. Why Aaron no hit ball? Aaron sad? How fix we? That's kind of the questioning that you get to, like, hey, is he? Can you give him something to perk him up just a little bit?
Nothing.
Scott says this Yankee abuse has to stop. It hurt my feelings, guys. Sorry, Scott. Well, hey, if you need
it's not us abusing them,
if you need your feelings abused a little bit more, tune in tomorrow for the Wire to Wire Upset Picks Challenge.
That's true.
And Scott, if you are in this challenge, and I believe you are, because I think I've seen your name before. If you want to be abused just a little bit more, be a part of that.
And make sure your team doesn't lose game 4. How about that?
Speaking of being abused, Cole, we're going to whip around some audio that we haven't had a chance to get to this week. on the show. This one made me laugh so hard yesterday. This is audio from the post-game interview with Aaron Rodgers being asked if the loss that they suffered this weekend to the Patriots was a moment of darkness. And I feel like whoever this reporter was, funny guy, asking Aaron Rodgers about darkness and what he knows.
This is a moment of darkness for this team. Is that how you see it, and how do you get out of it? I mean, because you can just stay in darkness as well.
Yeah, I've been in the darkness. You got to go in there, make peace with it. Offensively, our goal has just got to be score 30. Doesn't matter what the other two sides are doing. We have trust in our defense and teams, but we're not scoring 30. We're underachieving. This offense can do that every single week.
They suck right now.
We got to go shake hands with the darkness.
And was that being recorded on a recorder from 1914?
We got to make out with the darkness. We gotta make our kissing cousins with the darkness.
And look, not to get on a tangent here, because I know we have to hit a break and you got more audio. I wish the media would agree to just stop bringing his name up. Let's all agree, don't bring his name up. Don't cover him. He's not good. His team's not good. Freaking quit talking about
watching him fail at this
What
point.
other 2-win team, though, are we talking about?
So here's the thing. Number one, it's funny because Aaron went on his darkness retreat. Didn't help.
Yeah.
Number two, he keeps saying dumb things like, hey, we gotta be friends with darkness, which makes me think of this other Batman villain who loved the darkness too.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but blinding.
It's been a long time since I've heard that audio. Like a long time.
That's a great movie.
I mean, you were like, oh my word.
Taking you back, huh?
Yeah. It's been a very what movie was that?
That was Batman.
Which Batman?
That was Batman.
One of the early ones, right?
The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, was it?
That was the Dark Knight Rises.
I can't remember.
Tom Hardy was Bane.
Yeah.
You ask Aaron, are you in a position of darkness? Gotta be friends with the darkness. Gotta open up the door and walk through the darkness.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Come
that
on,
we're still
Aaron.
giving this clown the media attention. But it's Aaron Rodgers, so it doesn't matter if they lose out. They're still going to talk about him. Diesel, coming up next, it's time to talk to our high school Fan Upstate Player of the Week from Week 9, Cam Smith of Spartanburg. He had a fantastic night on Friday against Burns. We talk to Cam next. Well, high school football, as we do every Tuesday, we talk to our Fan Upstate Player of the Week. Want to bring in Cam Smith of Spartanburg High School, who had a fantastic performance on Friday night. Just absolutely awesome to see. Cam, you had a big night, as we tweeted it out earlier on our Twitter page. 6 solo tackles, 8 assists, 2 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 2 quarterback pressures, and 1 carry for a touchdown. I want to start off, Cam, out of everything you did well on Friday, which play, what did you do that made you smile the most on Friday night?
The strip sack, because causing more turnovers was something we definitely wanted to do as a defense. And when I did that, it just lit up the crowd. The sideline went crazy. It was fun.
Cam, you held Burns to 14 points, while the offense, man, they gave you a whole lot of, to mix metaphors here, run support on the offensive side of the football, put up in 58 points to the 14 that you gave up. What did you guys find defensively, scheme-wise, that helps you shut Burns down so much?
We knew if we could get pressure back down the quarterback, he wouldn't have time to throw the ball, because they got some fast guys at receiver. So we knew if he couldn't throw the ball, they couldn't score. And we know our run game, we came a long way since the first game, and we ain't really worried about nobody running down our throat for real. So we knew if we could stop the pass, we'd definitely keep them where we wanted them.
Cam, I've seen a lot of teams this season, including you guys on Friday night, and I'll tell you this, man, not to make your head big, I was impressed with Spartanburg on Friday just as much as I was, if not more, than any other team. You guys, especially on defense, you're so fast. Your linebackers, you, Peyton Jones, the other linebackers that you have on that team. I mean, what do you think goes into having such a successful defense like you guys have under Coach Hodge, and this team all of a sudden, looking to win a region championship this year?
Really just effort and maturity. That's what we got. We done, and as we keep playing, people keep gaining more experience. Everybody getting better every week. So as much as we pour in during the week and go out on Friday and give as much as we can, nobody can score on us.
Cam Smith, Spartanburg Viking, joining us here on the Fan Upstate Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Cam, talk to us about your style of play. Cole was there. Cole got to see you play on Friday night. I didn't get to see you. Are you a field general type where you sort of run things and you put guys in their place? Or are you more of a super focused on what your assignment is kind of guy?
I'm really like both, because I don't really like to talk, but if I got to, like if I have to, I'll tell someone to play or what they're supposed to be. But I really like for everybody to know what they're doing, so we can all just focus on and be locked in on our keys. But I'll talk if I got to, because I'm the leader. So definitely like a mixture of both.
I like it a lot. Cam Smith, number 22 for the Spartanburg Vikings. He had 6 solo tackles, 8 assists, 2 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 2 quarterback pressures, and a partridge in a pear tree. No, a carry for a touchdown. You said that your favorite on Friday was the forced fumble. The carry for a touchdown, though, Cam, do you guys expect to use you back there in ways where you can get carries, and what makes you so hard to stop?
Oh, yes, sir. I started as a running back, and I transferred over to linebacker. So that was my main position, and that's how I can really see it from the defensive side of the field. I always know what a running back can end up being at. So they try to get me. Well, I only had 1 carry, but we try to get me back there as much as they can.
Cam, I want to talk a little big picture football with you. I don't know if you've seen this play. You might have seen it by now, but last week there was a big controversial play in the Saints-Chargers game where a Saints defender rolled up on Justin Herbert, grabbed his ankle, and twisted on him. How does your coaching staff handle situations like that? How does your coaching staff teach you when you've got a player down on the ground? What's the process like teaching you how to operate in that scenario?
We try to get everyone off the field, keep everyone on the sideline, and keep everybody calm, because it's football. Things that happen like that, and we try to keep our composure if we face any adversity, because we don't want to miss a guy for a week over something crazy like that. But definitely, when people go down, we take our time to get the guy up and don't want to rush nobody off the ground and nothing like that.
Cam, has Coach Hodge talked to you guys at all about not overlooking Riverside on Friday? Because you and I both know what looms in the distance next Friday in a game I'm sure you guys are pretty excited about taking on Gaffney.
Oh, yes, sir. We treat anybody like, well, we always talk about playing Dutch for it. We treat anybody like we're playing Dutch for it. We restarted practice today because we ain't taking nobody lightly. And we know Riverside definitely has some dudes that can play and they can stay in the game. They took Gaffney to overtime, so we definitely not taking them lightly.
Talking to Cam Smith of the Spartanburg Vikings, our wire-to-wire and fan upstate high school player of the week. Just a phenomenal performance this past weekend, this past Friday night against Burns. What does it mean to you when you have a huge performance like that against a rival team as Burns is? Do you walk a little bit taller? Do you puff your chest out just a little bit farther when you do it against a team and a school that has a rich tradition the way that Burns has?
It's always good to beat a rival, but when you beat a rival by 40 plus points, it's definitely a boast. It's definitely.
Cam, before we let you go, man, you've been a fantastic interview. What does Cam Smith like to do off the field in his free time when he's not playing football on Friday nights?
I play NCAA football on the game, and I like to hang out and really just eat at all different type of restaurants. I go to Greenville all the time and eat downtown.
What's your favorite kind of food?
I like burgers.
Burger guy.
Oh.
Any type of burger.
So Cam, anytime we talk about burgers on this station, everybody always says Ike's is the best burger in Spartanburg. True or false?
Ooh, Ike's good though. Ike's good. Ooh, yeah, Ike's good. I like Ike's burgers,
right.
but
I like it. What's the best?
I have to go with. Ooh, that's tough. I don't know. I really don't know. I like every burger I done ate.
You've never met a burger he didn't like.
I was gonna say, yeah. Cam,
I never really met a burger I didn't like.
Fantastic stuff, man. Great job today on the radio, but also appreciate you hopping on with us and what you did fantastic, or what you did Friday night was fantastic against Burns. Good luck to you the rest of the way, and thanks for hopping on with us.
Thank y'all.
Absolutely. Cam Smith, the fan upstate player of the week. He was really good, man. I'll tell you,
dude.
I love talking to high school players because they're just so different. And Cam Diesel, he's awesome. Like on the field, he is so good. He is a fantastic player. That Spartanburg defense as a whole, though, as he said, they're legit.
And so with Cam, did you see them using him a lot? Just blitz.
They bring pressure.
Was he hanging back a little bit?
They bring pressure.
It feels like if a guy's playing as well as he was, getting the number of tackles that he had on Friday night, 6 tackles, 8 assists, 2 TFLs, you don't run at that guy. You don't run at him.
Well, he said it. He they don't feel like teams can run on him. So really awesome to talk to him. Diesel, did you know 3 games tonight in college football before we run?
How about that?
New Mexico State, FIU.
Oh, you're not going to get me to pick New Mexico State again, for God's sake. Those Aggies have hurt a lot of people's feelings this weekend.
That's a 7-point spread, by the way, in favor of FIU.
Okay.
Louisiana at Texas State. Ooh. Texas State favored by 4. That could be a good game.
That really could be. Louisiana's a good team.
And then Louisiana Tech, Sam Houston at 8. I'll take the middle game, though, at 7:30 between Louisiana and Texas State.
You're taking who is the winner? I think Louisiana gets it done on the road. They're getting votes in the AP.
No, I do too. They're 6-1. They're really good. I don't know why they're the underdog.
Texas State's 4-3.
Give me Louisiana. Give me the underdog. I like it. Let's go underdog tonight. Go Louisiana.
That's a tough one.
Mascot?
Raging Cajuns. Yeah. Texas State Bobcat. I helped you.
You did help me. Appreciate
We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk with Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered and a big time guest, Mark Schlereth.
Yes.
Joining the show tomorrow.